All right. On my screen, it shows that we're recording. So with that, I will call this meeting to order at 6:01. And I'm assuming that all council have gotten their latest download of the package. That's correct. Yes, good. It looks like everybody's nodding their head. So that's a good thing. Excellent. Thank you. This time I'll entertain a motion that we adopt the agenda as presented. Thank you, Councillor Stickle. All in favor? And that is carried. That takes us right to our delegations. We have a little bit to get to. So we're going to start with Mr. Foppel from Ascend Chartered Accountants. Jeff, I'm just going to turn it over to you. I guess we'll probably just, we'll leave questions till the very end. That'll save from any confusion, because I imagine if you're going to share your screen or whatever. So we'll leave all the questions till the end. Welcome. I'm going to turn the floor over to you now.
Great, thank you very much. Lori, did you want me to share my screen with the statements?
Whatever you're most comfortable with. If that works for you, that
Sure.
works for me.
Yeah, I'll do that. Okay, just a sec here. Okay, can everybody see my screen there?
That's excellent.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I guess I'll just, probably easiest to just follow along on my screen here. I'll start with the audit report. We'll just kind of start at the top here. I'm not going to go through the whole report. It's pretty dry, but starting at the second paragraph from the top there, I just want to point out.
Did we lose him?
I think he's frozen.
Yeah.
We'll give it just a sec, and if it doesn't work, then we'll go to Sergeant Spurley. If I'm sure he's ready.
I'd be good to go anytime, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, you know what? I think, yeah, let's do that. Laurie, you can turn off the screen share. Laurie, correct? There you go. Yes, you can. Okay, Sergeant Spurley, we'll go with you, and then once we get Jeff back online, then we'll let you go through your whole report, and then we'll push Jeff off to the next one. So we're going to go with 3.2. All right, welcome, Trent. Great to have you join us, and we'll just let you take it away.
Thank you. Everybody, I'm assuming, has the new reports that the RCMP is sending out as kind of quarterly reports now. Everybody's had a look at it. Yep. I don't have the ability to put it up on the screen, so I'll just refer to the reports. And as I say at every meeting, there's nothing remarkable about our reports. We're still status quo as far as crime goes, and our numbers are still down at a level that it's really hard to do an actual statistical analysis, you know, because if we have, and I've said this many times before, I will pick well, total criminal code on the what's it called, the RCMP provincial policing report. It has all the colorful boxes and stuff on it. On page 2, you know, they're talking about total criminal code on the top line there, percent change year to year. So they're saying there's a decrease of 29% from 2020 to 2021, which is factual, but 29% itself is a remarkable number. But when you actually look at the criminal code offenses, we went from 49 to 35. So we have reduced our total criminal code. It does say down by 29%, which is a remarkable number, but the reality is our numbers are very, very low. CDSA offenses, it's probably, I'll talk about that a little bit, and that's on the same page down towards the bottom. Drug offenses are going to be one of our priorities, and drugs is probably going to be our #1 priority this year, followed by property crime, rural thefts, and then traffic. And it's pretty much the same as every year, other than drugs is kind of in the top spot this year. You'll see that from year to year, we've gone from 5 to 23. That's about a 360% increase. It doesn't mean we have more drugs in the town of Hannah or in the Hannah detachment area, but what it does mean is we're more active in that area. The drugs right now are somewhat high profile because Drumheller, as well as us, have had a significant number of overdoses, including deaths, unfortunately and sadly. It isn't because that I just want everybody to know that isn't because that the town is swamped with drugs or there's more drugs in town than there normally is. The issue is, as what happened in Drumheller, is as soon as you get a bad batch of dope, and with fentanyl being in some of the drugs that are out there, and fentanyl being as lethal as it is, as soon as you get a bad batch, you start getting overdoses like that. And sadly, you begin to get deaths as a result. So it's not that drugs have increased in the town. The drug use hasn't increased in the town. We are seeing a few more people showing up in town that we would probably consider are deeply involved in that subculture, but the reality is the same people are still using the drugs. And as soon as you get a contaminated batch of drugs in, you start having those overdoses. So drugs by far is going to be our number one priority for the year. We are working on it. In the previous year, we were very successful in small charges, as well as a project that we did where he was the main drug dealer in town and ended up with a 3-year sentence as a result of the investigation. We're going to continue along that line with the drugs. And then, as I said before, we're going to, property crime is going to kind of take second place, and then traffic as well. I will go to our priorities from last year. I think last year we had a really, really good year. We did the drug project, took down the main drug supplier. It's unfortunate, but as soon as we take down one drug supplier, another one comes in to take that business. It's a profit game. And if there's money to be made, there's people out there to take advantage of that, unfortunately. We will keep working on that, but we did have significant success last year with that drug investigation. Copper thefts in the rural area, we just about hammered them right down to zero, and that was a result of my members working with the crime reduction unit, rural crime reduction unit out of Airdrie, and passing information back and forth to the point that crew could get a project going. And the project resulted in all of the people that were responsible for our copper thefts getting taken down in Calgary under 2 search warrants. And that literally hammered our copper thefts down to zero. So springtime again, there's money to be made. I presume we're probably going to see an increase in that crime again, but we'll deal with that as it comes up. Traffic enforcement has increased about 19% overall. That's pretty good. Our numbers from 2017 to 2021 have increased significantly, and that's because I've pushed the members to get on the road and get active through enforcement. And when you see a stat for enforcement, it doesn't necessarily mean that there was a ticket issued, but there was some interaction with the motorist to change bad driving behavior. We did want to focus on a distracted driving, as well as some vehicle equipment and manner of driving. And unfortunately, I don't see us being as successful in that area as I hoped we were. We're looking at different ways how to get into that, the distracted driving, the stunting, and manner of driving. And I have put in for an unmarked vehicle as to become part of the detachment. So, a marked vehicle is really good because everybody behaves when one is around, but as soon as there's nothing around, people just go back into the bad behavior. And honestly, when you have an unmarked vehicle, the bad driving comes to you. It's quite funny. But so we are looking at different ways to kind of become more successful in that area, because I don't think we've made a real dent in that area. And I think it's something that we're going to focus on a little bit differently this year. I think I'm just going to have a look at the other document. Yeah, and the crime statistics on the other document, it's a 2-page document. It just shows little lines going up and down. Basically, everything is showing a decline in pretty much every category, other than traffic has gone up just about 20%. And again, I want to, you have to look at that realistically. Like, total provincial stats have gone up 257%. It doesn't mean that more people are committing those offenses. It just means that we're out there more actively trying to deter that from occurring. And I would open the floor up to any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Campion has a question.
Yeah, hi, Trenton. Nice to see you back to work. I see.
Thank you.
The traffic thing, I see you got your trailer set up a block east of me here again.
We did. Go ahead, Councillor.
I think they got it on the wrong side of that prairie land. It should be on this side, and I don't. Does it have a camera thing on that one or whatever? Because they're sure still giving her by here. I don't know what it is, but
Are they still giving her through the actual sign, or just
Yeah.
on the other side? They are giving her through the sign?
yeah, they go through the 4-way stop and everything. My neighbor has, I was texting her the other day, talking to her, and on the text thing, and some guy went roaring right by, and she said, "Yeah, he never even slowed down." And you could hear him, you could hear him a block away. But
And that goes to where I say I think we failed in the manner of driving is, I could probably go up my deck and I can listen to the manner of driving out there right now. And some people come and focus on my house as well, just because of my occupation. That is one concern I had with the trailer, is putting it back in the same spot. It may not have, there's studies been done, and when you put a speed trailer or a speed correction device in a certain area, if you leave it there for too long, or you do it too many times, it actually has the opposite effect. And I'm not sure what the basis of the study is, but I think what we will do is, I know we didn't have it on the other side of the park by your house the last time we had the trailer, so I think we will move it over there, and then we will as part of our focus on the traffic and reducing the improving the manner of driving, I think we'll focus on enforcement through those areas whenever we can. One thing I should have brought up too that I didn't, that's in the report, is for the first time ever, we have 7 constables out of 5. So we're 2 surplus to establishment, which is really nice. So once these 2 members are off of field training, we're going to have more bodies out there to be able to do things like that, where they can get out and they can focus on a specific area for a while and get some enforcement in there.
okay, I even got a truck here if you want to sit in it and watch them.
we may already have that with us, so
You're welcome to it. So
okay,
thanks, Trent.
Thanks, Councillor Campion. Councillor Bowden.
Hi, Constable Spurley. I was just wondering about the Mental Health Act and the issues associated with that. And then right underneath that, that's the other provincial stats of 15. Is that you'd already discussed that?
now, is that on the very colorful document, or on the
That's on, I don't know, I just printed out the specific pages I was interested in. That's the
Okay.
one just above the common police activities. And so it's about halfway down under the federal. So it's got Liquor Act, cannabis, mental health, and other provincial stats.
okay, yeah.
And so I was just concerned about the mental health and what the other provincial stats sort of entail.
So Mental Health Act, obviously that's anything that we're called to where we would have to apprehend somebody under the Mental Health Act. So those 8 files, and I'm shocked there isn't actually more. That's probably one of the biggest things we do. Mental Health Act and domestics are probably the 2 of the biggest things that we work on in this town. And that's not unusual for any community. But so anytime we've had to apprehend somebody and take them to a designated facility, which is Pinoca now for us, that would come up as a stat on there. You know, I can say all kinds of different things might contribute to it. It could be COVID, it could be the mine shutting down, but I see the people that we're picking up, and for the most part, they don't fit into that demographic of people that would have been working out at the mine. A lot of it is substance related. The majority of it is substance related. So that's where those 8 are coming from. The other provincial stats, they would, anything that doesn't fall under, let me think here. Like the tobacco laws would be one that would fall under the other provincial stats, because we don't have a specific category for that. And I can't, and if I'd known there was interest in that, I may have brought the actual 15 files here to kind of explain what they were.
That's fine. I just was curious as to that number, because it seemed to have increased substantially from
it has, yeah.
Same with the mental health. And do you foresee the mental health issue being a growing concern down the way with COVID and all the other society problems that we're dealing with at the moment? And
yeah, I think I do actually. I think that's probably going to be something that is going to increase. For the first part, when COVID came in, everybody's kind of bracing, like we're going to have this massive outbreak of Mental Health Act cases and files, and it didn't happen. But as COVID continues and we get restrictions and they let up and they put more restrictions in, people are, you know, you look at some of the small businesses in town here, they are struggling. And if we continue to put that pressure on those people, it is going to increase significantly. And it's going to go outside that demographic of people that we normally get, is, you know, the people that are abusing substances and things like that.
Perhaps we should have a category related to COVID.
You know, and we do have a scoring code for COVID, but we only use it for if we have to check on somebody that's supposed to be quarantining and things like that. We don't have a code that we would score it to. We don't have a code that we would attach to, say, a Mental Health Act file if the person says, yeah, it's COVID that is causing this to me. And that would probably be a good stat to track.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Councillor Bowden. Any other questions from council? Okay, Kim? Yeah, no, I know. You don't really? It's been like 7 years doing this, you know that?
Yes. Just making sure, Mr. Mayor. Anyways, Trent, just want to thank you. I saw your idea on Facebook today about the gift certificates at our local restaurants for one of your coins. Just wondering if you know whether you have any coins left, or if you're sold out already.
I definitely have lots of coins left. We don't sell them, but I do have a coin for everybody I do have a coin for the mayor and everybody on council.
No, I was just referring to, do you know what the uptake was? I know I talked to a gentleman this afternoon who said he had gone in, got his gift certificate, and went to the RCMP detachment, and he was the 4th or 5th one in. So,
oh, good. You know what? I was out of town today, and I haven't had a chance to see how many coins went. But if there's good response to it, we'll do something else again, and maybe we can work with the town to put something together to help spur that on a little bit.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a great idea, and just wanted to congratulate you on that.
Thanks, Kim.
You know, supporting our local businesses that are struggling, I think that was a great idea. Secondly, just wanted to, you've touched on speeding, and I know you and I have chatted about that on a few different occasions. So I just wanted council to know that I have had some discussions with Mr. Spurley in regards to where what we can do, where we can go, and they're looking at doing some different enforcement methods. But that's the common theme that I hear here in terms of is just is just speed and loud vehicles. So I know
Yep.
it's on your radar, and I know you guys will do a good job trying to curb that. So,
Thanks, Kim.
and the last thing, I just wondered how you got permission to be in the fire hall. The fire chief let you in the fire hall to do your meeting. You must be pretty special.
I got a message as soon as I put that background up. So
So, and again, welcome back, Trent.
thanks, Kim. I appreciate that. And I will hang around here for the rest of the meeting after questions.
Okay, awesome. Sergeant Spurley, we thank you so much. And it's, like I said, I'll reiterate, it's great to have you back. And we look forward to continue to work with you. So with that, I will entertain a motion that council thanks Sergeant Trent Spurley, OIC, Hannah Detachment, for the presentation of policing statistics and the update on activities of the Hannah RCMP Detachment. Thank you, Councillor Campion. All in favor? And that is carried. So that'll take us back to 3.021, Ascend Chartered Accountants. Jeff, I know you just wanted to keep up to date on what was going on as far as the law enforcement goes in Hannah. So that's how that works. So I'm going to turn it over to you again, Jeff, and hopefully we can keep you online this time.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think I had an internet little blip here, but usually I'm not first on the agenda anyway, so I guess it's probably just as well. So I'm going to try my screen share again. I hope I don't lose anybody, or you don't lose me, I guess. So you can see my statements there.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I think you caught my little spiel on the audit report. I want to get to the bulk of the financial statements here, and I want to start with the statement of financial position. So this is a summary of the town's assets and liabilities coming down to your accumulated surplus as of December 31st. So looking at the statement, it starts off with cash and temporary investments at the beginning of the year, or at the end of the year, sorry, starting with 4.5, ending with 3.4. Of course, that's gone down, but there was quite a bit of construction projects in 2020. So a bunch of deferred revenue was recognized and spent to fund those construction projects. Moving down beyond that, summary of the town's receivables are just below that. So we have your taxes receivable, just under $300,000. Some other trade receivables, 453. Then you see receivable from other governments there, $1 million, just over $1 million, compared to 277 in the prior year. What happened at the end of the year? There was quite a bit of funding that the town hadn't received yet. There was about $573,000 of the MSI, some federal gas tax money, and there was quite a GST refund that was due because of the construction costs, so $130,000 there. Moving to the next line item, land inventory held for resale. So this is something I want to discuss. So there wasn't any movement as far as selling any lots in the 2020 year, the land held for resale. But you'll note that the value went from 1.9 down to 1.4. Now this is something we actually discussed a year ago when we were talking about your financial statements. And we're looking at the value of what is sitting on your statements as far as what is recoverable on the land held for resale. And this year, council actually made a motion to reduce the asking price on the Fielding Place lots. So when we're doing the audit, we looked at what your total cost was associated with those lots compared to what you're going to sell them for based on the revised asking price. And so as a result, we had to do a write down of what was carried on the statements there. So I just wanted to point that out. Continuing on, we have your investment account, the carrying value just shy of $2 million. Then loan receivable. So this is as of December 31st. This represents what the golf club owes the town of Hannah. I believe subsequent to year end, motion was made to forgive this or make some arrangement to get this off the books. So total financial assets at the end of the year, 8.7 million. Then just looking at the other side of your statement of financial position, your liabilities, regular accounts payable at the end of the year, some deposit liabilities. Then we have deferred revenue, $679,000. This represents government grants that you've received that you haven't spent, I should say received or considered receivable, that you haven't spent on the intended purpose. So this is we have some MSI money carrying forward, as well as some federal gas tax money and some others that will be spent in future years. The next few line items, we have employee benefit obligations. So basically that $343,000 represents money that the town owes employees, vacation pay payable, sick leave, banked hours, etc. Last liability there, long-term debt. This is a capital lease on a grader, so that no other long-term debt, no other outstanding loans aside from that. So total liabilities, just shy of 1.6 million. The town's net financial assets, $7 million. Then what the statement does is it brings in your tangible capital assets of 30 million, plus some minor prepaid expenses, comes down to your accumulated surplus of 38 million. Okay. Now we're going to see that accumulated surplus in a few more spots on your statements, and we'll make a little more sense of it as we go forward. Okay, so I'm just going to move forward to your statement of operations here. So this summarizes the town's operating revenues, less operating expenses, coming to a shortfall, and then bringing in capital sources of revenue, coming to the net change in surplus. If we just look at the various operating revenues, they total 6.9 million. Really looking at them, nothing too unusual when looking at comparison to prior year and to budget. You'll note that your operating transfers are higher than what they were in the previous fiscal year. Of course, the town got some additional funding from the provincial government in 2020 as a result of COVID. So there's some extra revenue there. I think aside from that, there was nothing else I want to point out there. Looking at the operating expenses, including depreciation, they total depreciation of your tangible capital assets, they total 7.4 million. Now you'll note there, right, the subdivision land and development, there's a new line item there, and it's $572,000. This represents the write down of the land held for resale. Okay, so now we're going to see another presentation of these expenses. So this presentation is by function. So you can see administration, protective services, etc. The next presentation will show the same expenses by object. So salary and wages, amortization, etc. So everything kind of gets lumped here by function. I guess that's everything I want to say there. So just moving on, statement shows a shortfall of 526. Keep in mind that includes your depreciation, your tangible capital assets, plus this write down of $572,000 on your land held for resale. Just to round out the statement brings in the capital sources of revenue, your $2 million of various MSI funds, federal gas tax funds, to fund capital projects in the current year. And you'll also note there's this contributed and donated assets. There's $198,000 included in that number that came from the spray park committee to fund the construction of the spray park in 2020. Okay, I don't think I have anything else to add there. I'll just move forward a couple of schedules here. I'll just briefly stop off at the statement of cash flows here. I'm just going to look at the subtotals on this schedule. So basically what this shows is where your cash came from and where it went to and what the net change was during the year. If we just look at the subtotal halfway down the page, you can see that operations generated $1.5 million of cash. Investment in TCA, it used 2.5 because of course there was quite a bit of construction in the town in 2020, and change in investments and repayment of capital lease obligations. So net change was a use of cash this year, $1 million. But that makes sense. I mean, the plan is to try to accumulate your MSI funds, to do a meaningful project every 2 or 3 years, whatever it works out to be. Now going forward, I'm just going to flip the schedule there. Here is Schedule 1. This is your schedule of tangible capital assets. So on the face of the statement, you saw the net depreciated value of your TCA at $30 million. The advantage of this schedule is you can see what you have invested, total cost, less your accumulated depreciation coming to that net value, but you can also see where the investment is, whether it's in land, engineered structures, et cetera. And of course, the majority of your investment is in buildings and engineered structure, what makes sense. Just to look at some of the changes in the categories, looking at the first column, the construction in progress, you can see an addition there of $326,000. Now, this represents construction in project, so an unfinished project. This is the spray park. So as of December 31st, it wasn't completed. It's going to be completed, hopefully, for the season here in 2021, pending COVID, etc. And of course, under engineered structures, we see quite a bit of additions there with the different road work and infrastructure work that was taken on in 2020. Moving along, the following few schedules. Sorry, I'm just flipping that around so you can see it. Schedule 2 is schedule of property and other taxes. So net value you see in your financial statements is $2 million. Advantage here is you can see what your gross tax levy was, less your requisitions to the Acadia Foundation, of course, the school fund. Next schedule just shows your government transfers. Again, advantage here is that we can see which level of government your transfers came from under operating and under capital there. Then next we have Schedule 4. So of course, again, on the face of the statements, we saw your expenses by function. So administration, protective services, etc. Here, the advantage of this schedule is that we can see, your different expenses by object, by category. So salary and wages, contracted services, etc. When you look at the actual compared to the budget in a lot of these categories, you actually beat the budget. This of course, this write down of the land held for resale wasn't necessarily a budgeted item. That was something that was decided throughout the year. So when you normalize things, pull out your amortization, pull that out, you can see that your expenses were definitely better than what you budgeted for. But unfortunately, I think that might relate to the current COVID situation as well. Moving it along. Oops, I'm having trouble here with the orientation of this page. Schedule 5 here is schedule of changes in accumulated surplus. So we've seen this $38 million in a few different spots here. The advantage of this schedule is that we can kind of understand where that accumulated surplus belongs to. And of course, the majority is equity and tangible capital assets, $30 million there. The town has restricted surplus of $2 million and unrestricted surplus of 5 million, so, or 5.2 million. So relatively unchanged in the unrestricted column. So the advantage here is you can see the statement of operation showed that the town's accumulated surplus grew by $1.7 million in aggregate. Here you can see that the majority of that growth, of course, was under tangible capital assets, $1.4 million of growth there. So I think that brings a little light to that. Moving on, page number 12. I won't go through this in detail. This is kind of a regurgitation of a lot of the information that we've seen, just breaking it down by function and categories, so you can kind of see what was spent in each area, a little more detailed. Now, beyond that, we have your notes for the financial statements, starting here with your accounting policies. No changes there, so I'm not going to discuss any of the accounting policies. So no new or changed accounting policies in the town of Hannah for 2020. Note number 2 just discusses your cash, how the cash is invested, what kind of interest it earns in its bank account. Note number 3 shows your taxes receivable. So $295,000 receivable. Here we can see what's current. So what's outstanding in the last 12 months versus what's arrears taxes as of December 31st. Note number 4 shows your investments. So the town maintains an investment account. On the face of the statements, you see that there's $1.9 million invested at your cost. The fair value of those investments as of December 31st was $2.2 million. Here you can see the different rates that you're earning on those investments as well. Note number 5, we've already discussed the golf course loan. And moving on to note number 6, deferred revenue. So in the face of the statements, we saw that you had deferred revenue of $679,000. Here you can see what that deferred revenue is. Of course, the majority being some MSI money and some federal gas tax money, as well as some other grants, donations, etc. Employee benefit obligations. Again, we've discussed that on the face of the statement. And note number 8, your long-term debt. So here you can see what's due over the next few years on the greater lease, and then, of course it's up in 2023. Whether you buy it out or reinvest in, turn it over into a new lease, I guess that's yet to be determined. Going along with the long-term debt, note number 9 is your debt limit calculation. So of course, this calculation is based on the regular operating revenues of the town. So basically what this says is the town could theoretically, borrow $10 million and be within the debt limit, and can service 1.7 of debt annually, loan payments, that is. Equity and TCA, note number 10, we've already discussed that. And I guess some of the last notes I want to look at, note number 11, last time we need to look at accumulated surplus this year, $38 million total. Really the advantage of this note is that we can see what the restricted surplus is, where it kind of belongs to, where this council and other councils have designated your restricted surplus or your reserves over the years. Of course, you can see where the growth is. There's some budgeted increases to water and wastewater based on what happens each year. Aside from that, the rest of the notes in the financial statements are some standard disclosures required by municipal affairs. I don't think that there's a great deal I want to add. I guess at this point, if anybody has any any questions or want to discuss anything on the statements or the audit? I guess we could open up the floor.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. We'll open that up. If you want to stop sharing your screen. My eyes are getting old and it's a little harder to see hands up.
You want to look at those statements?
There we go. That's a little better. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. That's excellent. Any questions, Councillor Olson?
Jeff, I don't know if you'd have an opinion or what you can say on this, but what's a comfortable, unrestricted surplus? Like I compared financial statements of a lot of places. There's some extremes on both ends. Both seem irresponsible. It seems to be in the middle, maybe even a little, honestly, on the high side for unrestricted surplus. But I mean, that's you don't want to get into this of over taxation. So I don't know if you can comment on what other places have or what's necessary.
Yeah, I definitely can. I mean, that's I do get that question quite a bit, and that's a really tough question to answer. When I guess when councils are looking at whether it's restricted or unrestricted, I mean, you can move it back and forth between the two funds, of course. But what's enough, right? And there's some municipalities that are trying to annually fund their amortization expense, their depreciation of their tangible capital assets. So the idea being that they're raising enough money, so they're building up a pool of funds for future replacement, of course, right? Now, some people might argue that, well, why should today's ratepayer pay for future replacement of infrastructure, right? But I mean, the prudent thing to do is definitely to be, have a capital plan to be setting money aside in some kind of, way to try to allow for replacement or partial funding of replacement of future capital, right? Now, I think though, when you're looking, and it's tough to just look at what communities have for restricted or unrestricted surplus sitting on their financial statements without looking also at what their infrastructure deficit is, right? And I think you have to look at both of those things together when trying to come up with, okay, do we have enough restricted surplus? Do we have too much? It's a tough question. Yeah. I don't know if I answered your question, or if you have another question to lead on with that.
No, that's fine. That's adequate. I mean, it makes sense if we're a little higher on surplus cash because we're, I think, higher on the infrastructure deficit too for some of our stuff. So that makes sense.
Yeah. I think that's a fair assessment. I mean, I'm not an engineer, but I think that's, when you look at your TCA project, I mean, a lot of work went into tracking all of the town's tangible capital assets. And I think when, you look at, the net depreciated value of some of your engineered structures, I think that there's stuff that needs to be done in future years, right? So it doesn't hurt to have some cash. You're not really sitting on any debt right now, right? I mean, you have the greater lease, but I mean, that's minor, right? I mean, so financially, I guess that's a good thing.
Yep. Good. Yeah, that's a good point, Jeff. I know even with us, with any of the AUMA virtual conventions, it's still a hot topic. Is what is your deficit on your infrastructure, and I guess the trick is coming up with a common assessment for every municipality where it's actually an accurate number. And I think that's the challenge in all this. Is you can hire one assessment outfit that comes and looks at your tangible capital assets, and they might value it here, but another company comes and values it here. So it's always a juggling act just to try to figure out how much is enough or how much is too much, I guess. Thank you for that. Any further questions from council? I know, Kim, yes. From council. Nope, seeing none. Okay, then we'll leave, we'll let it, Kim take the floor. That's great. Thanks.
Just wanted to, I guess, in regards to Councillor Olson's question about how much should you have in reserves? I know administratively, we're pushing, we should have more. I guess our fear comes from, and council will know, last year we did one block of infrastructure, and it wasn't even a complete overhaul of all curb and gutter and sidewalk, and it was, in excess of $600,000. So, you don't want to have, you don't want to, it's tough to find that balance, but I just want, when people see we have $5 million there, I think it gets them thinking that we've got too much. But I know my big fear is, if you're looking at $600,000 a block for infrastructure, and we know that most of our infrastructure is aged. The other concern that I have, that I mentioned to people all along, is you have a tremendous asset in the arena, curling rink, pool, and which, other than the pool, the arena, curling rink's about 40 years old. And I think if you went to replace that asset today, you'd probably be looking at $20 million facility. And so when you look at 5 million in the bank and a $20 million facility like that, that's how I try and keep in comparison whether we have too much or not enough. But it is a balancing act, and the better off you are financially, the better off your community is and more sustainable it is. On the other hand, you got to balance that with your tax levels. Are we taxing too high and have too much in reserve? So I just wanted to make a comment on that, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you for that, Kim. That's a good analysis of that. So any further questions for Mr. Foppel? All right, well, I have to ask one question. I know there's been some changes with the organization, and I hope this isn't the case, but is this a swan song for you, or will you be continuing to enlighten us each year with your reports?
Yes, yes, there's definitely been some changes in the organization. We've made some personal changes in our life, but we are we're continuing on. I guess we could say we're employees or we're consultants for Ascend, and we're taking care of a lot of the municipal audits, and we're continuing that direction. So definitely yes. Yeah.
Okay, good. That's good to hear. That's good.
Yeah,
Excellent.
for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. And Councillor Bowden, you had a question?
Well, I just had a comment, and I just wanted to congratulate you and wish you all the best with your new changes in your life, and thank you for your work.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Awesome, Jeff. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate your time here tonight. And take care of yourself. If you're in town, where we are. You can always come find us.
You betcha.
Take care. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. With that, I would entertain a motion. The council thanks Mr. Jeff Foppel, CPA, for his presentation by virtual means of the Town of Hannah 2020 audited financial statements. Thank you, Councillor Bowden. All in favor? And that is carried. That takes us to public presentation. Mr. Neal, we were to have someone here.
Yeah, Mr. Corey Ashley had requested an opportunity to speak to council during public presentation this evening. Not sure what's happened. Lori says that he's trying to join, but it's not connecting. We've sent him an email. I think Trent has even trying to help us out. So I guess I would just leave that open, Mr. Mayor, if he does join us.
Yeah, we'll go to item 5. We'll go to meeting minutes, and we'll just kind of move along. If we see him pop on, then we'll move back to public presentation. All right, takes us to 5.0. I would entertain a motion that the minutes of the regular council meeting held March 9th, 2021 be adopted as presented. Thank you, Councillor Stickle. Any questions, errors, or omissions? Yes, Councillor Bowden.
I just wanted to make a comment regarding the Hannah Farmers Market motion that was made regarding entering into an agreement and the new rate. and just let it be known that I was not in favor of the new rate, but I was in favor of the agreement. So that is all I wanted to make a
All right,
comment on that.
Any other questions, comments regarding those meeting minutes? All right, then I'll call a question. All in favor? And that is carried. We'll take us to the second part of the motion. I would entertain a motion, the minutes of the information meeting of council held March 31st, 2021 be adopted as presented. Thank you, Councillor Deadlock. Questions, errors, or omissions regarding that meeting? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All in favor? And that is carried. That takes us to, I better start marking my page so I know where I'm at. The financial reports, 6.01. I would entertain a motion that council accepts the account payable listings for general account checks 41527 to 41597 and direct deposit payments of 000156 to 000229 for information. Thank you, Councillor Jensen. Any questions regarding the accounts payable? Yes, Councillor Campion.
Yeah, on the listings there, we've got 3 things in there for Fairway Customs. There's a couple, it's got a TP, I imagine it's Tyler Price. A couple are at 40425, one's got a yes and a no. One braid 08. What is this all about?
So, Mr. Mayor, it was just some typos or some wrong information. We did issue a check to Tyler Price, Fairway Customs, but we made a mistake and made it out to the wrong company. So that had to be redone. And then when we direct debited, there was a problem of it going in. That's why you see in the account, it says void. So ultimately, you will see later on that we finally did get him payment properly for the purchase. So there was some technical errors in the report, but that's why it says the payments were void.
And payment was for?
Payment was for, he did some work on the golf cart we have out at Fox Lake. So he put a new seat on it and did a tune-up, making sure that it's ready for the season.
Thank you.
That's all, Councillor Campion?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bowden?
So there was actually a payment of 40425.
Yes.
So we have to maintain it as well as sponsor it and everything else?
I'm not sure by your question. That is our golf cart that the town owns.
Yeah,
And
it's equipment.
has out at the Fox Lake Park for the caretaker to use.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was assuming it was at the golf course. My apologies.
Okay, any further questions regarding accounts payable? All right, then I'll call the question. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Takes us to 6.02, Statement of Revenue and Expenses. I would entertain a motion that council accepts the Statement of Revenue and Expense report for March 2021 for information. Thank you, Councillor Deadlock. Any questions regarding the Statement of Revenue and Expenses? Councillor Bowden?
So I'm not sure if I'm on the right page or not, but this is to deal with the March office cleaning, check number 175. Seems to be increasing.
So that's on the Statement of Revenue and Expenses, or are you going back to accounts payable?
Well, I guess I'm going back to that, and I've already missed that, I suppose. I was just wondering about the kickboxing supplies for $1,400 that was also covered. Is that for a special project or?
So, Mr. Mayor, in regards to our cleaning contract, nothing's changed. Sometimes it depends on how many days there are in a month, because we have had our contractor come in and do cleaning every day with COVID, wiping down everything. So we have coming in an hour a day to do that, not on the weekends because obviously nobody's here, but sometimes depending on the number of days in that month, that might be a reason why the check might be slightly different, but there's been no change to the number of hours or no change to the compensation level. And I'll let Director Snell talk about the kickboxing.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, council members, the question in regards to the kickboxing equipment is we will be running a kickboxing clinic or workshop, I guess. That's a tongue twister tonight, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry. But we do have a qualified instructor who's offered to do this program. We've ran them in the past with Becky Visti, and we've got an instructor this year that's willing to do it. We're simply prepared. We had to have the equipment on hand, and individuals will purchase that equipment as well as pay to take the sessions. So it's very similar to what we've done.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I just didn't recall seeing it. Thank
Yep.
you.
Okay. Any further questions regarding the statement of revenue and expenses? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that is carried. That takes us to the budget overview. Item 6.03, I would entertain a motion that council accepts the budget overview for March 2021 for information. Thank you, Councillor Campion. Questions regarding the budget overview? Okay, seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. 6.04, capital budget quarterly update. I would entertain a motion that council accepts the first quarter capital budget update dated March 2021 for information. Thank you, Councillor Olson. Any questions regarding the capital budget overview? I know things don't usually get going too heavily until we get into the construction season and stuff. All right, seeing no questions, I will call the question. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. That takes us to item 7.1. We have a committee report. I would entertain a motion the council accepts the Community Services Board meeting minutes for March 22nd, 2021 for information. Thank you, Councillor Jensen. Any questions regarding the Community Services Board meeting minutes or comments? Councillor Bowden?
I'd just like to bring attention as well that Diana Boxma was the one that did fill out the application for the Hummer Dam and provided that for the CSB when she was sitting on the board. And it's too bad that the second application was declined.
Excuse me if I might correct Councillor Bowden, Diana Boxma assisted with that grant application. Thank you. And that has been recognized. We do appreciate it.
Okay, thank you for that. Any further questions? And I'll call a question. All in favor? And that is carried. That takes us to senior administrative officials reports. 8.1, the Chief Administrative Officer, Mr. Neal, I'm going to mute and I'm going to turn the floor over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things not in my report I just wanted to touch on. So the HANA Community Development Project, which you've been updated on at our info sessions, they are hoping to begin interviews with our downtown businesses in the next week or so. So they want to contact all of the business owners and probably virtually or on a phone call. They have a number of questions they want to run past them in regards to what their vision is, what their thoughts are, what they think should happen, what type of financial contribution would they be able to partake if there was a project that would happen downtown, all those types of things, and anything that the business owner may want to share. So they will be starting those hopefully in the next week or so. In case you hear anything, I did want to just provide a clarification. Councillor Bowden mentioned the farmers market resolution that was passed. So I just wanted to be clear. The resolution that was passed was based on the full use of the building. So the concession, the area at the full price. So the normal price would be $405. Council authorized a price of $324, which was 80% of the $405. If the farmers market chooses not to use the concession, which they did last year, we don't charge them for the concession. We would just charge them 80% on what they use. So they may choose, last year they did not use the concession as a result of COVID. And this year, depending where we're at, that will be their decision. But in hindsight, maybe we should have had the resolution worded slightly different to basically say that we will charge them 80% of what the fee should be. So I just wanted to clarify to make sure everyone was on that same page. And if you're not on that same page, let me know and we can bring it back for clarification. So those were a couple of things that aren't on my report. I did meet with GFL yesterday. They are very interested in still putting their fertilizer blending facility on the highway on our west lands. They will be moving forward with developing an offer to purchase. They will be moving forward with providing us with some site details, illustrations, etc., so we can prepare a development agreement and a rezoning application. So there are a few things underway. They have retained a public engagement firm to help them with the public engagement of this project. We've tried to kind of wait to see if COVID would relapse and we could get into a traditional open house, but they are working with a firm to put some public engagement together. They really want, they don't want it to be a surprise to anyone. They want everyone to know that they're planning to come, what they're planning to build, what they're planning to do, and address any questions or concerns people may have in regards to that. So it's moving forward. They're hoping that they could actually start doing some dirt work on site later this summer. If not, be prepared to be in operation by first part of September. They have, in my last discussion with them, they did inform me that they have been working with Core Ag, and Core Ag has actually been selling their product as is. So they've kind of they feel they've got a base in the area as well. So things are moving along. They're fairly excited. As I said in my report, they do have their formal letter of notice in the papers. But as I said to people, it's just a typical bureaucratic legal ad that probably is not going to get a lot of attention from people, but they're fulfilling their commitment to Alberta Environment and Parks.
Okay.
Outdoor patios.
Jim, just to go back on that. So do they still have to rezone that piece of property though, do they not?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, and there is a public process through the rezoning component either. Yeah, it is highway commercial, zoned highway commercial right now. So would have to be, to meet our existing land use bylaw, would have to be zoned industrial. So yeah, there's that process to go through. Outdoor patios, lots of discussion about outdoor patios on social media. As council may be aware, we did meet last year with the Business Hub and put a process in place for outdoor patios that basically in short term asks them to be responsible for the setup, take down any garbage, any accumulation of garbage, and to provide insurance, appropriate insurance that would take the town's liability away because it's the town's street. I know the Business Hub is looking to move forward with theirs fairly soon. They've submitted an application. They've got their barriers constructed and ready to go. I know there's some discussions with another restaurant downtown who's considering it. They're just not sure if it's worth the work and the time to put in, especially right now in April, knowing the weather can be so unpredictable. And the fact that I think, like everybody else, we're all hoping that sooner than later, we're going to be moving out of these restrictions and back into normal operations. So we are prepared, Mr. Mayor, to work with anyone who wants to establish a patio. My main concern as we move through this is it is angle parking and lots of traffic and, unfortunately higher speed traffic. And I just want to make sure that if a patio is established there, that it's safe. We've talked about even moving the town, bringing some Jersey barriers and putting them in face of the traffic so that if somebody did veer off or go too close, that would stop them from hitting anybody who might be sitting in that area. The trouble with that though is you'd have to leave them out 24/7 and whether that's the right idea or not. So there's lots of ideas and discussions around that. And I just wanted, council to know we're prepared to work with anybody who wishes to do that and move forward. And if anybody has any interest in it or any ideas on how we can do it safely, certainly we're open to that.
And that's it?
No,
That's
Councillor Bowden had a question. So
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, Councillor Bowden.
I had talked to one of the businesses, and they were looking into the insurance, and the insurance is quite expensive. And so, that might be a drawback for some of the businesses, with that sort of service.
Yeah, no, unfortunately it is, I guess, just from the town's perspective and liability perspective, if they don't have insurance and something happens there, we're the ones that will be paying it. And unfortunately, I think the chance of something happen is very, very rare. But if it did happen, it would be catastrophic or could be catastrophic. So
is there any way they could come under the town's insurance coverage or not?
Then it just puts us on the hook, as in regards. And I think our insurance company, knowing them the way I do, they try to eliminate risk as much as possible as well. And so if they see a risk opportunity, their premiums are going to climb significantly as well. So I know the one business, talking to the business hub, they indicated that there wasn't much difference on their insurance. So they did talk to the one individual and said, maybe check with your insurance company again or check around, but their insurance company, the change was minimal. So hopefully they can work something out in that regard. Just tax recovery properties. We now have title to all of the remaining tax recovery properties, Mr. Mayor. We will in camera and closed session today. We have offers on two of the four properties that council will be discussing those offers. The other two, there's no offers on at this point in time. And with Central Meat Deli property, we're working closely with Cactus Corridor in terms of potential demolition and some potential funding from WED for that demolition. So it's a little bit of a process, but we're working through that one at this point in time. We have changed the locks. We do have keys. If anybody wishes to go for a tour of it, they're welcome. But that's where we're at with tax recovery. The other thing I just want to point out, Councillor Stickle was eagle-eyed, noticed my typo. So in upcoming events, our council information is April 28th. It has not changed. It's not April 18th. So if anybody sees that, it's still the 28th. And I think that's...
Even if it was the 18th, I wasn't attending. It's a Sunday. So.
Yes. So I think that's it, Mr. Mayor. If there's any questions, I'll be pleased to answer them.
All right. Any questions from council? Councillor Olson?
I just wanted to comment that hopefully we can prioritize some action on that Central Meats building. It really needs to be dealt with. So I'm assuming Mark is doing everything he can. And if it's a funding thing, I don't know if any of that stuff is retroactive, if we deal with it and we can get reimbursed for dealing with it, if that's an option, or if we deal with it, does that just mean all funding's gone?
Yeah, I understand your concern, Councillor Olson, and I'm sure it's the concern we all have. At the end of the day, working with WED can take a little bit of time and a little bit of massaging and going through the process. But we sometimes have to be a little bit patient if it's going to turn out to be financially rewarding to be patient and work with them. But certainly we're going to move it forward through the channels as quickly as we can. But I don't want to make any promises that it'll be really fast and it'll be down next week. I'm hoping that before the end of fall, late summer, fall, that it will be completely down. So.
Thank you. Yeah, good call, Councillor Olson. I agree. Councillor Campion.
Yeah, Kim, Robert Goulet had talked to me one time, interest about seeing they could salvage some of the stuff from the cooler. Is he dealt with it? Have you contacted you at all?
Yes,
Yeah.
Mr. Goulet has got a key from us, has been in and looked at some of the equipment that was left behind, and in an attempt to try and evaluate whether it was worthwhile salvaging or not. I told him to let me know if he thought there was something worthwhile salvaging, and we could talk about how we get it out. From our perspective, my understanding of it, there's no power to the buildings, so you can't even plug things in or try them out. And I think just based on the condition of the building, they're very untidy, to say the least. So, but he certainly has been in, Councillor Campion, and certainly have the avenue open to for further discussion if there's anything there that's of interest to him.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Joe.
Perfect. Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, thank you for that, Kim. That takes us to the Director of Business and Communications, Director Armstrong. I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will just start by thanking Sergeant Spurley and his members who were working hard here with me in the background. I was bouncing a few balls. Hopefully wasn't looking too disrupted. They actually went, council was expecting Mr. Corey Ashley to be coming on to the meeting tonight to be speaking, and the members actually went to his home to see what the problem was. I could see him on my end, but he wasn't accepting the meeting. Anyways, it seems he had another meeting that he had to attend at 7 o'clock, so he wasn't able to come in on this one, but would like to attend the next one. So I just wanted to start out by saying that. As you're aware, I didn't provide a written report. I enjoyed a couple of days off last week, towards the end of the week, and so I missed the deadline. So I'll try to keep my verbal report short and sweet, but by all means, if there's any questions, fire away. As council is aware, there's been a administrative transition at the medical clinic, and how that affects us is the Dr. Fortna videos, because we're still working very closely with the medical clinic to get those out to the public. So it's kind of like starting all over again, learning what we're doing, helping the new administration get it figured out. It has not gone without a few glitches, but we're all doing the best we can and getting her message out to the public, which is very much appreciated. I did a tour of the business hub at the Visitor Information Center, trying to work together with them cooperatively while they build their procedures for management, send them resources, connections, all kinds of information that have proved useful to us in the past. Every year, with the exception of last year, we have a reprint of our Hannah tourism brochure, and that goes out to some outlying communities and just wherever they're needed. So that did need to be done because it was 2 years old and needed to be rebranded. So the printed copies just arrived today in my office. I haven't even opened the box yet, but I'm sure that they look exactly like the one that I approved. So if anybody wants to see a copy of that or pick up a few, you're absolutely welcome to before we get distributing them. I only printed 500 for the first run. We're fortunate having our local printer, Tumbleweeds. She just charges by the number that you need, not by the bulk. So we never end up with any waste there. It's very, very efficient. This time of year, we always end up doing advertising in tourism publications. ECA review, it's the only one I can think of off the top of my head, but there's a number of them that we do on an annual basis. One of the ways that we try to help the not-for-profit community or groups in the community is by including some of their events that they have every year in that to hopefully generate some interest. So things like the farmers market and the car show and the gun show, you know, things like that that are good community events. Unfortunately, we don't know, they don't know if those things are going to run. So we still want to support those. We have those dollars in the budget. So struggling to try to figure out, it's not as easy when you have to rebuild the entire ad. So that's taking some time. Spent quite a bit of time working with Gwen on the COVID-19 wellness survey. I'm sure she'll talk about that a little bit. You probably haven't seen a lot about it yet, but you will start to in the coming days. Lots of troubleshooting. That's every month. I could just add that to my report. I think every month, software, hardware, anything that plugs into the wall, basically. Feels like it anyways, it's not. We got Mayor Warwick's podcast, Disruption in the Energy Communities. And if you haven't listened to that, I encourage you to. He and Water Dyko did a fantastic job. It was entertaining to watch. So again, we just got that out into the e-news yesterday at some point, and you'll see that out on social media in the next couple of days as we get there. Meeting with, and I was in that, of course, marketing meeting with all the different communities, and I have a meeting scheduled with Mark Nakota to talk about the regional marketing and branding that they've been working on to kind of bring me up to speed. He says it's getting down to that level now where he needs those of us on the ground involved. And I think that is all, because I do the coding for the facilities, for the security systems. I have a meeting scheduled with the president of Hannah Dance to give her a tour of their area at the Visitor Information Center this week. So they can learn what is their area, what is Stage Hannah's area, and we will talk about going forward from there, what the plans are. Any questions for me?
Well, you could just have them come see me because I got the keys. I can just go back here and give
Well,
them.
that would be great. I'll do
Sorry,
that.
I had to do that.
Of course you do.
Okay, sorry. Any questions for Director Armstrong? All right, seeing none, you're that thorough. I guess that's great. Good job, Lori. Thank you so much. Appreciate all the hard work you do. That takes us to the Director of Community Services, Director Snell. I'm going to mute, and it's all yours.
And I need to unmute. Thank you, Mayor Warwick. Just a few highlights from my report. In council might have noticed that we were doing some shale, had been delivered this week. The crew's on top of that. We know people are outside using the trails and being outdoors, and that was a priority. And the other thing we're looking at is our bleachers. There's about 6 of them that are in dire need of some replacement of woods, and we did price out the composite, but it was not within the budget, Mayor Warwick, at all. So you'll see we're continuing on with the outdoor work and getting things ready. The hardest part this spring perhaps has been knowing what to tell our seasonal staff. Will they be employed? Will we be opening? We're telling them we'll plan to open for our May long weekend, and we've notified some staff, several of them, but they've all got that caveat there that we'll have to see what government regulations are coming down. I mentioned in my report that Kitty's Corner and Hannah Dance are still proceeding to go ahead at Centennial Place, and Hannah Dance is, I think Lori's term this week is those that can pivot with the changes and those that are able to make things happen. And I was approached last weekend by one of the dance teachers and asked if the town of Hannah would allow them to get their dance groups together as a regular class and do a virtual recital. And we indicated absolutely, we'll work with them on that. So I know that group's scrambling this week. They're going to be putting together a bit of a virtual recital, and they've got planning to do that. We will allow them access to the stage on the community center because that will give them that performance feature. There'll be no audience. They'll be operating completely within the COVID guidelines. And I really commend them for being able to pivot, as Lori says, and make something good happen for the kids. I think the teachers and the administration, the executive are to really be, I think they deserve some credit for that. It's been a bit of a tough thing for them to do that. On my report, I mentioned the Hannah Family and Marriage Therapy Program, and that program received an injection of cash last spring or summer in regards to mental health funding. And we were looking to expand the service. And we've had discussions with Starland County because we haven't turned anybody away from our program, but we do not provide subsidy for that program. And Starland County FCSS came back with $5,000 contribution. They are willing to be a member at the table, and that will allow their residents to access the same subsidy scale that will for family marriage therapy program. As well, we were able to secure a contract with Rapid Access Counseling. So we did a fairly fancy new brochure, went out hot off the press. And Lori's, I know, been getting it up on our webpage, got that information out. And I know the press had been looking at doing a bit of a article to let people know that those services were there, giving people lots of good options. So we're pretty happy about that. When we talk about pivoting and moving things, Dr. Jody Carrington is scheduled for June the 4th or the 2nd, I believe. And there's no way we're going to be putting 250 people in our community center for that presentation. So I have been in touch with Marty, and they're willing to move that date again. Of course, there's always the comment that they'll do a virtual presentation if we wish. But quite frankly, people are not interested in a virtual presentation. They want to see her and be in person for it. So we're looking at rescheduling that to December to try, you know, if I had a crystal ball, I'd know exactly which month to pick, but that's the best we're going to do. The COVID impact survey, that has been done by other FCSSs. And that was so that we could have actual data in regards to what's happening in our community. It's interesting when I looked at domestic violence with Corporal Spearley's stats shows that it's down. Now that was one of the flags we were hearing was really going to go up. I'm not saying it's not an issue. It is absolutely, but we're going to get that actual data. I was really surprised. Both Lori and I were taken back. She had the information go out on the newsletter, I believe. It hadn't been out, the survey hadn't been out live for 24 hours, and we already had over 30 surveys come back in, which is really, it's quite a statement in terms of people wanting to have some input and some contribution to how things are going to roll out. So internally, we made a statement that we wanted to have a fairly high rate of returns. In order for a survey to be considered valid, statistically valid, you want about a 10% return rate. And we would like that to be 15 or 20. We want it higher. And we've asked the questions about transportation and about senior services because those are the hot topics that people seem to keep coming back to. So we will definitely have some information and some data on that. And I really appreciate the help that we've had on that.
Yeah. So Gwen, so how are people able to do the survey?
We've got it online.
Okay.
So it's Hannah, www.hannah /impact, COVID impact
Right,
on
right.
our website. And we've also supplied paper copies. We've got them at the Business Hub, the Learning Center, the town office.
Okay.
And we would, you know, anywhere else people want to have them, we'd get them out to them.
Okay.
I believe Raylene had a request for the Manor, so we dropped some off at the Manor.
That's good. I do have, like I do at the store here, just because of where I'm at, you know, I'm accessible. I do get people ask me questions about especially the transportation part of it. So I'll pop in and I'll grab a few just to have here at the store and give them out. What's the deadline on filling them out?
April 29th. So we've
Okay.
got some time.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'll pop in and get some, and I got some people that I'll actually personally deliver them to because they're interested in, in having some input. So good, thank you.
Good. We're also going to be doing some cold calls with that survey. So to try and reach out to people and encourage them if they don't want to fill it in online, it intimidates some people. And we've got some of our young staff that are a little bit of a talker and they're good with public. So we're doing a little training session with them and they'll be doing that as well. So you're going to see and hear lots of that, but I think it's a good indication that people are looking for having that input. So that's excellent. I talk about the grants that we've applied for, and I usually highlight those from time to time. And I'm sure council's aware it all depends on the need and the demand for those dollars and your timing as to whether or not you're successful. So there's no magic wand. There's no magic guru that does the grant applications. It's hard work and getting that information down there. And I stand by our record quite strongly. We're one of the few departments that I'm aware of that has received $1 million grant in the past towards community facilities. So we have done very well on obtaining grants, and we'll continue to work on those. But again, if there's a high application level on those, we're gonna, the competition's strong, or even if they feel that the area has been oversaturated with grants, sometimes your project's good and you lose out on that end. But we have some hopeful ones coming up, a few things coming up that we get asked for additional information. That's always a good sign. And we'll continue to work on those. A good example is the spray park ones. We hopeful with those ones. We've done a good job on presenting them, whether or not they come through. If I had that crystal ball, then that would be great. And there are two things coming up that council, I'm sure, each and every council member is very much aware of the amount of contribution that volunteers make in our community. And it is Volunteers Week next week, April 18th to the 24th. And it is the value of one and the power of many. And I know each and every one of us volunteer at some level. And the most difficult thing is to try and recognize and reward those volunteers. And we struggle with it each year. Do we do a big party? Do we do the barbecue on the tailgate barbecue? And it all comes back to that simple thank you. So that messaging is going out. Business and Communication will be putting the messaging out on in our paper and our social media. And we also have been speaking with the press about being kind to pass forward. It's pretty easy to take the negative route, and we're trying to promote the kindness and sharing those gifts and the skills and being kind at this time with everyone. And I think if everybody takes that step back and value of one, power of many, and using the kindness, keeps our community what we want it to be. Great. And then that falls right into the following month is mental health awareness. And on Wednesday, the first Wednesday of May, is Hats Off for Mental Health, or Hats On for Mental Health, I guess. And that's when you'll see various people within the community wearing crazy hats. And in the past, it was Project Reach that partnered with the community and encouraged everyone to do that. The new Project Reach coordinator is Andrea Olson. Misty Griffith has moved on to another position in Wetaskiwin, and Andrea was successful. Andrea is quite willing to partner with that again and promote that. So she indicated they would be doing that at the schools. So I just encourage you, if you want to grab a crazy hat on May 5th, that's the day you can do it. And with that, if there's any questions in regards to my report.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Any questions? Councillor Olson, and then Councillor Campion.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Gwen. I've got a few things here for you. One, I was just curious how many people applied for the Fox Lake manager position. Was there several, or are we down to one?
I have to go by my memory. I think there was 3 this year. So yes.
Yep.
So we're
And
not.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just saying, it wouldn't be just the only person that applied. It is still a competition and there's still interest in it.
Yeah, good. And is this one, I know in the last couple of years, it's been a higher salary, but significantly less work for town staff. Is this similar to that contract, or is it more like past ones?
This would be less work for town staff. They're definitely looking at it as a family gig, if you will, a family contract. In fact, the daughter did apply for parks, and when I asked if they wanted to be still considered, they made their commitment with the contract at Fox Lake. So they've got their time allocated to that.
Okay, cool. Pool regulations, as of right now, are they where they were last year? Like I noticed hotels are doing half-hour bookings that you get just to yourself.
They're not where they were in the summer. And I try not to look at, I'll be honest, I try not to look at the regulations until it comes closer to the date, because it's a changing target. You know, the regulations in regards to the facilities are so difficult. Our CAO and I have discussed the fact that I'm really glad we don't have an indoor pool, because I wouldn't be able to allow people to go lane swimming, but I could book them in for a private lesson right now with an indoor pool. So, you know, I'm really hoping that Dr. Hinshaw felt that we could go back, not to previous years, but to where we were at last summer. I'm really hoping that's where we're going to be at. Our young staff did a really great job last summer of being able to allow us to open that pool. Did we do everything perfect? Probably not, but they really stepped up to the plate. And the good news is we've got our manager returning and a lot of the staff are returning. So it's not going to be a new game for them.
As a family that frequented it lots last year, I was pretty happy with how it all went. So I'm hoping it resembles that. My last comment I just want to say is you can talk about Hannah Dance and this whirlwind that they're scrambling to get through the executive and all the teachers. They expressed that they're quite happy with what you're willing to do with them and for them, and get rolling with it, because it's going to be a whirlwind. But after 2 years of very disappointing endings, they really want to do something for all of them. So that was it.
Thank you. And they are to be commended for pivoting. We're all got lemons, got to make lemonade.
Exactly. Okay, thank you. We'll move along. Councillor Campion.
Yeah, couple items. When in your report you have a thing about that John Deere tractor that the museum is trying to rent. What is the holdup on that? Was there a reason that it can't be turned over to them, or?
Brass, it's just a matter of me finding an hour where I can get together with Jack Gilland and do up a formal letter. It's timing on my part. That was in the in our community services report. So I'm just running a little thin in the department as it is. We're a little bit short-staffed.
Yeah, because I think they wanted to borrow it to rent, like to use themselves, kind of like a. Okay, the other thing in your report, you have a thing about picking up a trailer for a parties and events.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Yep. Great question. Yeah.
Yeah, what is going to be the cost of this trailer?
That's a great question, Councillor Campion. That is to do with the Hannah Wellness Network, and that is the $20,000 grant that we received through Alberta Health. And it's to go towards wellness initiatives. So they funded part of our croquis curl, for example, part of the costs of the actual lumber, et cetera, for the croquis curl. They will fund the library, has a physical literacy lending library. They'll have urban poles and life jackets, something a little different. That's going to be happening. They'll fund that. And they would fund up to $5,000 for a trailer that we could fill stock with games and supplies that then could be taken on location. And I'll be frank, I was really hoping we'd have it in time for the amazing race that was going to be happening May 1st. There seems to be a discrepancy in terms of what we would like to have in the community and the limit of the funding that's available through the grant. So the grant has a maximum of a $5,000 capital cost. And the trailer is, I believe, $6,700. But what we don't want to be stuck with is something that doesn't suit our needs down the road. We need it to be functional. We wanted the drop down gate at the back and all that. So we're still working on obtaining that trailer. We just are limited by the amount of the capital, and it doesn't go up past that 5,000. So we'll be looking for that. It is under the grants. It does not come under the town council's budget.
Okay, yeah, just, well, if it's already higher than what it is, and that doesn't include clipping it, plus pulling it around. It was just, I don't see much gain in that, but whatever. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions for Director Snell? Okay, thank you for that report, Director Snell. Good job. That takes us to the Director of Public or Protective Services, Director Moe. I'll turn the floor over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was hoping to be able to report back to yourself and council with regard to the results of the annual Municipal Emergency Management Program review. However, I have not received anything back yet, which is odd, but that could be due to COVID and other things that have taken place within the AMA. I did that review with our field officer, Randy Tiller, and we spent a little time on it, and I sent in the new draft of our emergency management plan. And so that might be one of the reasons why it is taking a little bit longer to review it, to see if there's some items that may be missing. So hopefully that'll be along. I was also hoping to be able to report to council about the regional emergency management plan, but there has still been no activity on that since last year. So I really don't know where we sit on there. There's been no communication from the leadership there, but hopefully something will pop along fairly soon here. We've had a little bit of flurry in springtime development activity, and hopefully that will continue. A couple of garages and a few things like that. So I'm hoping that people are feeling optimistic and want to loosen up their purse strings and do a little bit of development. So other than that, that's all I have for now. I can entertain any questions that you may have.
Okay, awesome. Any questions for Director Moe? Yeah, I can't imagine anybody building anything with the cost of commodities the way they're going. Holy mackerel! But I guess that's what it is. All right, so I guess we have no questions. Thank you for that, Director Moe. Keep up the good work. That takes us to the Director of Public Works, Director Olson. The floor is yours.
I have nothing further to add to my report.
Okay, any questions? That's new. That's brand new. Any questions for Director Olson? I do. I can't leave you. I can't let you off the hook that easy. No, just alleys, they're firming up kind of quickly, I guess. So I would suspect in the next month or so, you'll try to get at some of that. I've just had a couple of questions regarding that from.
Yeah, we're looking at that screener to get some material up.
Right.
And we'll be adding material as we go. We generally try to get in right after we do the fall cleanup.
Right.
It gives us an idea when we run the equipment down the alleys, which alleys we need to touch up first.
Yeah.
But, and I am down a manpower here a little bit. So we're trying to keep up with the potholes, sewer flushing. We're hoping to get that done right away, and then we'll jump into that other alleys and stuff.
Good. Well, I haven't got my forklift stuck down in my alley yet, so they must be getting firm. All right, we have a couple other questions. Councillor Campion, followed by Councillor Bowden.
Yeah, Brent, I've had a number of calls lately from taxpayers here about the alleys. They ask us why we keep building them up. Why they're not, they're getting so high now. Like there's places where the alleys are probably 6 inches a foot higher than what the buildings are when they were built, like garages. It seems like they just keep getting built up and it's not making for good drainage.
Brass, that's not true. We haven't been adding gravel. In fact, that's one of the biggest complaints is we haven't been spending budget money to gravel the alleys.
No,
So
but
the alleys that you're talking about, a lot of the alleys, people's places are lower. We haven't been adding gravel.
well,
We've
it's
just
not,
been
well, I
being-
mean, even that crushed stuff that they took off the streets that they had in different places. I'm just saying what the people are saying to me. Like, I don't know.
millings, the only place we've put millings was behind Murray Orr's building, and he's quite happy with it. And we put one layer on Shaker, and we've actually had a request for another layer on Shaker. That is the only place we've managed to put the millings, other than a couple spots on Main Street where the alleys have been really soft. We're trying to tighten up where the frost boils are.
Yeah, well, it just, I don't know. They're claiming that the alleys are getting built up and built up. I don't know where it's all coming from, but that's what they're saying to me, so.
Give me a list of the alleys and I'll tell you when we've added gravel, because the biggest complaint is we're not.
I would, yeah, I'll give them the list, or I'll give them your phone number.
Okay,
Thanks, Brent.
thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Campion. Councillor Bowden.
Yes, I've had some questions about South Municipal Road, whether or not the millings will be going on there at all or not.
Well, that was the intention, Councillor Bodine.
Will it be the town or will it be special areas?
Well, we have to work with special areas. We didn't really have an agreement, but when they first started, they contacted the CAO, and the idea was that we could overlay that road with the millings. But when we had got all the millings hauled into both places, special areas isn't 100% sure what they're doing with them, and we haven't had that time to talk to them. But that was an initial conversation, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll let people know.
The other thing, Mr. Mayor, on that road, as you're aware, the original stuff that came off is not as effective as it needed to be because it wasn't screened fine enough. So to screen enough material that we could use for that will take a little bit of time as well. And we will work with special areas. There was even talk potentially of being able to use the millings with an oil product to create sort of like a pavement. But again, it's a little bit experimental at this point in time, but we're certainly open to that as well on that road or any other gravel road that we may have. If there's a solution that works and we have that material, we'll follow up with that.
Perfect. Councillor Bowden.
Sorry, I also forgot to mention or ask about Railway Avenue as well. There's some pretty large spots in there, whether or not that might be addressed as well.
Well, that's usually a budget item, Councillor Bodine, where special areas used to rent us a milling machine, and they no longer have a milling machine. To purchase a milling machine or even to rent one, we've been trying to find one in a couple of years here. They're very expensive to get a hold of. If it ever gets warm enough where the grater teeth can chew it up, the problem is it's got to be chewed up, packed, and laid out. So it's something that we're trying to find an outfit or a machine that's low cost. We do know the road needs to be milled up and laid back out. We believe there's enough oil in it if we can do that. But again, special areas used to help us out with that, and they've gotten rid of most of their paving projects, so they don't have those machines anymore. So just trying to find something or a community that might have something that we can work with. We've been trying to do that, so it is on our radar for sure.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Any further questions for Director Olson? All right, seeing, I just want to make one more comment. You look like you're in a 1940s private investigator movie with the lighting you have there. I keep it up. I like it. It's really good. So keep up the great work. Thank you, Director Olson. All right, with that, that ends our senior administrative officials report. I'll entertain a motion. The council accepts the senior administrative officials reports 8.01 to 8.05 as presented for information. Thank you, Councillor Steckel. All in favor? That is carried. Just a kind of a footnote to that. I don't know if anybody heard Premier Kenny on Monday. He's saying by June sometime we should be back to some sort of normal, whatever that happens to be. Here's to our fingers crossed. He's even saying maybe a Calgary Stampede. He's a little more optimistic than I am. All right, let's get to some business items here. 9.01, 2020 audited financial statement. Of course, we had our presentation from Mr. Foppel, so I'd entertain a motion that council accepts for information the 2020 financial statements as presented by Ascend Chartered Accountants, and that the 2020 financial statement be advertised and made available for public inspection on the Town of Hannah website and at the town office during regular office hours. Thank you, Councillor Olson. No discussion, I don't imagine. We already kind of did that. Seeing none. All right, I'll call a question. All in favor? And that is carried. That takes us to 9.02 and a fire department quarterly report. Mr. Moll, Fire Chief, I'm going to turn it over to you. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. As you guys can see from your stats in your package, first quarter's been pretty steady for the fire department. We had 27 incidents in the first 3 months, which is up 1 from last year. And again, like last year, sets a new record for most incidents ever in the first quarter. The membership update, we recently brought on 4 new members, which brings our current total to 28, leaving us room for 2 more members. We didn't bring any new members on in 2020 because of the pandemic, but did lose several members, 2 due to retirement and 2 moving away over the past year. So we had to start filling those slots, even though the pandemic's still going. Bit of a training update. We're still continuing with our regular weekly practices, equipment checks, haul nights, just handling things a little differently now due to the COVID-19 starting to become, I hate to use the term, the new normal, but we're getting used to how to carry on during a pandemic. We're also carrying on with our NFPA 1001 Firefighter 1 basic firefighting course. It started in October. We had delayed the January date for a month into February. We did go this past weekend. We were in concert for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, even though there was a bit of an increase. We looked at it. Concert area still had 0 cases, so hopefully we didn't change that over the weekend, but haven't heard anything bad yet. So now all we got left is 1 more weekend in May, including testing. So if I can get the government to approve our test dates, running into a little trouble with COVID. They're just doing a little bit of a pushback, but we got to just show them that we have procedures in writing and meet what they require. Training tower itself currently is getting some technology upgrades being made to the internal Wi-Fi system. Draggers had some of our equipment down in Ontario for a month. They're hoping to do an update on the tower later this week. Kind of cool. They're able to do everything through the internet. They log into the tower, do the programming change. They can actually do tests on our equipment from there and then send that back out to us. So the good thing is this is all warranty work, fixing bugs and stuff. So no cost to us, which is great. WeldWorks, the company that did all the railing and welding, they're planning on returning once we get some warm weather. They got some railing modifications that we want to do, not their fault, more ours, a few changes that need to be made to make things work a little better and to fix some paint deficiencies. And then we got some site contouring, and we need to get that road that was constructed last year leading to the Quonset at the back of the museum. We need to get that road graveled. It just had a very basic little bit of rock put on it, and then the weather caught up to us. The day they were bringing gravel, we had snow falling, so they decided to better not spread it on the road into one big clump. So we'll get some more gravel and get that looked after. That's all I got, Mr. Mayor. Any questions?
That might be a record, I think, Mr. Fire Chief, because man, that's, yeah, you shocked me. I don't even know what to say. All right, let's open it up for questions from council members. You are so thorough. Look at how good that is. I do have a question. So maybe perhaps plans for a grand opening in the summer? No, fall, maybe? Before the next election?
Conversation with the CAO. It's all going to be COVID when we're comfortable doing it with COVID. I definitely want to get council and hopefully the special areas board. I'm looking at hopefully end of May. Once it's warm enough that we can get water in the props, we're going to use them that first weekend of May, hopefully, and should be able to be warm enough by then to leave the water in. So maybe if it works for the CAO, maybe your council info session in May, maybe you guys will be able to come over and get a personal tour. I think I promised some of you the opportunity to fight real fire in fire gear. So
Yeah. And, you know, no rush. It's just, you know, I know with COVID, it's whatever it is, what it is. We'll just have to play by the rules, I guess, until anything changes. So, but no, I appreciate that. That's good. All right. So I guess, Councillor Bowden, did you have a question?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. You're just unmuted. So it's no big deal. That's fine. Okay. No, that's fine. Okay. With that.
Now you're muted.
What the heck? Really? All right. With that, I'll entertain a motion. The council accepts the Hannah Fire Department quarterly report for January to March 2021 for information, and thank Fire Chief David Mole for his presentation. Thank you, Councillor Campion. All in favor? And that is carried. Sorry about that muting. That's, I think, maybe the first time I've actually done that much talking without realizing it. Let's go to 9.03. Capital purchase excavator and trailer. Mr. Neal, do you want to speak to that first, or do you want to have the motion?
The motion first, please, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Let's do that then. I would entertain a motion that council authorize the chief administrative officer to proceed with the purchase of a 2012 case CX160B hydraulic excavator and attachments for $96,000 and a 2000 Southland flatbed trailer for $12,000 for a total of $108,000 plus GST as outlined in the offer for sale submitted by Mark Faco of Almar Construction, and further that the 2021 capital budget be increased to $108,000 to reflect the purchase of the excavator and trailer. Thank you, Councillor Jensen. Mr. Neal or Director
Yeah,
Olson?
Mr. Mayor, just as council will remember, we debated this during our budget meetings. And at that time, the direction was to provide $100,000 in the budget. And before anything was purchased, it would be brought back to council for their approval. As you can see in the report, we did talk to a number of our local people who had backhoes. We did some research in terms of what's for sale, used and new, talked to a number of different dealers along there, all on the premise that Mr. Faco's hi-ho had been sold. And as you can see, the sale that he had anticipated and had moved through didn't get completed. So he came back to us and said, if you're still looking, I'd be prepared to offer it. Again, he did knock off $4,000 off the purchase price because they did use it for a period of time last summer. And he did have the trailer, which he would like to sell as well, which would be an asset to have, especially with the shop across the highway, to be able to store it and bring it across. It's so much better to have it on a trailer than to just drive it on the street. So with that, it's a total of $108,000. We're comfortable with the used machine because we've worked with it. Our operators have operated it. We know Mr. Faco keeps his equipment in good condition, and we've experienced the use of it a lot. So we're recommending the purchase of it and the trailer at this point in time. The other thing I just want to make sure council is aware, because we do get questions about why do we have a contractor in? We still anticipate that we will need to bring a contractor, whether that's Brooks, when we're in the middle of winter and the frost is as deep as it is. The equipment we're buying can do the work, but it would be very hard on it to do the work, and it would be a lot more time consuming with the equipment we have. And generally, when you have a water break and you have people's water shut off and there's water run down the street, you want to deal with that as quick as possible. So we will still potentially need to bring in some contractors at times, primarily in the winter, and or if there's a problem that's above and beyond the expertise of our crew. But with that, we feel comfortable with the purchase. Like I said, when we bring Brooks in, it's a minimum of, $5,000 to $10,000 every time they come in, depending on how long they're here, how much equipment they have to bring. So certainly a number of times bringing them in, we can get our money's worth out of the hoe over the future. We won't be putting huge numbers of hours on it, so we anticipate that it will have a fairly long lifespan with our organization. So I think that's a synopsis of it, Mr. Mayor. If there's any questions, we'd be prepared to do our best to answer them.
Councillor Campion.
Yeah,
then-
we got this trailer, we got a truck to pull it? Because this is a gravel truck pull it, or does it need a semi tractor?
No, we have 2 trucks that can pull it, Brass. It's electric
okay.
brakes. So the Freightliner and the Kenworth will pull it.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Good question. Thank you. Councillor Stickle.
Yeah, I was just, the price of the back or the high hoe is not really 96,000, is it? Because we get all these different buckets. There's 2 different buckets. Ripper shank, plate tamper, pardon me. And what's the other one? So it's knocks it down quite a bit, right? $30,000. So
Yeah,
our
I'm not-
Worth of accessories, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
I'm
it's-
not sure what the value of those accessories are, Councillor Stickle, but certainly they're included in the 96.
Yeah.
And I think most of them are in probably average to above average condition.
Okay.
A good point, though. Lots of accessories to go along with it. Thank you. Yeah, yeah. Any further questions, comments? Yes, Councillor Bowden?
I just like the idea that it's coming from somebody local, that you're familiar with the equipment and you know that it's been maintained and things of that nature, so. All I have.
I think the other thing, Mr. Mayor, and we might take him up on it depending on how our crew is, but Mark has volunteered, well, not volunteered. Mark would be hired on a casual basis if we needed an operator and he was available. And as you're aware, we've been operating shorthanded. We're going to be headed into summer and some staff holidays. So we'd like to, if it fits, we certainly will be approaching Mark to see if he would be able to be hired casually. So I appreciate the offer from him too. So
I thought you were insinuating that we would have it'd be nice to have a little break or something next week as his volunteer week. And, maybe it'd fall right in there. Sorry, Councillor Campion, butted in on you. What were you going to say?
Oh, it's just, his wage would be minimum wage, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for that. That's excellent. Any further questions before I call the question?
Mr. Mayor?
All right. Yes.
I'd just like to mention, when we say we would bring Brooks in, I just want to give you a little bit of a rundown on why we do that. So that break on 3rd, when that happened, I had to have a guy because our clay pile freezes solid. So I had one guy down at our gravel pit trying to get us enough clay to put back in the hole. I had 2 guys driving the dump trucks so that they didn't have to bring trucks in to haul the material away. And then when we found out it was a main and we had to shut it down, well, then Wes and I had to get a steamer because most of the time the valves are full of ice and froze. So while those guys are dealing and digging with the frost and working to get to the pipe, we're doing all that other work just to get the water shut down so they can finish the work. So they are expensive, but they have the right equipment. Even they brought in a 360 high hoe, which is a massive hoe. And the operator said the frost was unreal. So just so some of the taxpayers and council's aware, we don't call them in and just wait for them to fix it. We're trying to do stuff to save money. Plus we run out of daylight faster and it goes quicker. We can get the water on faster. So just a little bit of background on why we do that.
Yeah, thanks for that update. That's good information. Councillor Bowden?
Is there any other equipment that you're foreseeing a want or a need in the near future? Is this going to be the last for a while?
Other than changing out our equipment that we have, but we keep them all in really good shape. We weren't expecting to buy a high hoe. The problem is we were pretty lucky with Mr. Grover, Arnold and Murray, and then he kind of retired, ended up doing most of the work for the plant. And then we got fairly lucky with Mark, he started to retire, and then when he goes to Mexico, he would let us have his equipment. We were able to operate it. The fellas that have high hoes now, they all have other businesses, and they're available now to help us, and they help us out whenever they can, but it's not their primary job. So when we have a break, and that's where Brooks is different. In the summertime, Brooks is busy doing construction, water work, but in the wintertime, they're actual water crew sitting and waiting for work. That's why they're usually available. So when Mark's Hoe came up, and we know what it's looked after, that's really the only reason why we looked at it, is it would fit our needs. Our guys can run it. We can do some extra work on our clean out, our lagoon, some of our outfalls, stuff that we would have to pay that we haven't been doing. So if we get free time, we can do some of that. So that's the only reason, Sandra. Other than that, we don't see anything. We're fairly good with equipment.
Everything's laid out in the capital 5-year plan.
Yes.
To what
Other
year-
than that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
bet.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? All right, I'm going to call a question then. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. That takes us to 9.04, Hannah Spray Park Committee landscaping requests. I would entertain a motion that council authorize the town of Hannah to award the Spray Park landscaping project to PlayQuest Recreation to install a pour-in-place rubber surface as per option A of their quote dated September 28th, 2020 at a cost of $35,001 plus GST. And further to the 2021 capital budget for the Spray Park landscape be increased to $35,001 to reflect the purchase and installation. Thank you, Councillor Sickle.
So, Mr. Mayor, again, I know Mr. Rab's on the line. If there's any questions of the committee and where they're at. We did have a long discussion about this at our council info session. As council's aware, the original budget, first of all, council did make a commitment to $100,000, which has been funded. Council did make a commitment to upgrade the water system with the rain diverter and debris diverter. That was a recommendation from administration. Council has funded. I know that council did, and I know it's always difficult and government always gets blamed for not being able to stay on budget and follow a budget. But at the end of the day, council did commit 100. And I know that's why it's a little bit challenging, I think, for council to say they're going to spend more. In our 21 budget, we did budget a capital expenditure of $24,000 to do option B, which is the smaller footprint. It was on the condition that the funding plan was based on $12,000 from the committee through grants and fundraising and $12,000 from the town. As you're aware, the committee has come back and strongly recommended and requested that council consider upgrading to option A at $35,000 and basically fronting that financial commitment on the premise that they are applying for some grants and hopefully will have some success on the grants, and any success they have on the grants will go towards reducing that footprint or that cost of $35,000 to the town. But at the end of the day, I want council to know worst case scenario, if the grants are not successful, is $35,000. I know they have a contribution of $2,400 already towards it, so slightly less than 35 if no other grants are received or no other fundraising is conducted. But at the end of the day, administratively, we concur with the recommendation from the committee. I know it's more money and it's but I think at the end of the day, it's the best long-term option for the park and will save a lot of maintenance and a lot of repairs of turf and cleaning of facilities with grass coming in and out. And it does make it accessible, more accessible, if you have somebody who's mobility challenged to access the park and use the park as well. So we would recommend council move forward. And if there's any questions, certainly we'll do our best to answer them.
Councillor Campion, do you have a question?
Yeah, you betcha. Yeah, when I'm sitting looking at this, when I went through that thing, it shows the, that their option A, as in the black, at 35,102. And then it's got a black and blue at 36,571. Is this like, this is adding a blue trim or something to the black stuff or coloring?
So the option that's been chosen, option A, and I use the price, Councillor Campion, I'm just trying to find my page here. I don't worry about the GST because we get the GST back. So when we say 35,001, that is the option A, which is the larger footprint, and it has some flecks of blue in it to give it a little better of an aesthetic look. It's not, it's not just all totally black. It will have some flecks of blue mixed in with it.
Okay, well, that ain't the way it showed. It's the way it showed in their presentation of it. There was a black price as well, which was the 35,000 on whatever. Okay, then it went on to show about these wear mats and everything. These wear mats are going to have to be required as well on some of these ride things. It showed wear mats underneath the swings, and
I see Councillor Olson has his hand up. He might have an answer to that.
Yeah, I saw that too, Councillor Campion. I think that's just their accessory list of stuff. Like, we don't have anything that's going to require that. I think that's just that's a piece of their catalog, and they have extra pages, but that stuff doesn't interest us. That's more in like a swing that has like wood chips or something underneath. It looks like in the picture, if I recall. But no, that's not anything we're interested in. It was just a extra excerpt from their catalog.
That is correct. That's just pieces out of their catalog. I think they're trying to show what their rubber products can be used for and the durability of them.
Yeah, and it only has a 1-year warranty on it, I see. And in every one of their pictures that I've seen, it shows a fenced area, like, fenced stop. And I'm wondering down the road, what's this going to cost the taxpayers now to fence this? Because once this goes through, if this gets approved, then I'm assuming the spray park committee is going to have their opening and walk.
Councillor Olson?
Yeah, as we've said from day one, not from day one, but about day 10, there's no desire for a fence. There's not many areas that do for these spray parks when you look around. It's the openness of them that's really attractive. Like in that whole area, when you have a dry park and a splash park and green space in the middle, it turns into a full day affair for everybody. And without a fence, a parent can handle, a small child at the spray park. They'd also be able to keep an eye on larger kids at the pool. And we're just not interested in a fence. We never really have been.
Okay, well, it just that in the report, it also mentions about the vandalism and that. And the reason that we have a fence around our swimming pool, I believe Mrs. Snell will tell you that it's there is to keep people away from it in closed hours. And there has been times when even the fence hasn't worked, but.
I think Councillor Olson has a comment on that.
Again, the presentation that we've had long ago, when they showed what they're made out of, I'm not a sales guy on it. They are almost 100% vandalism proof. The fence around the pool, I would struggle to think what condition somebody would be in to drown around the spray park. There's no sitting water. That's the largest concern of the fence around the pool. And that's just not an issue there, obviously.
Yeah, that's correct. Liability issues with a pool full of water. I struggle with liability issues even now. If someone climbs over a fence that says no trespassing and happens to drown, guess who's going to be sued? I don't understand our legal system at times, but as Councillor Olson is correct, there is no standing water on this spray park, so no opportunities for any drowning. And that's the main concern we have of the outdoor pool in the off hours, is people getting in there and potentially drowning themselves. So we
Yeah,
would
well,
advocate for no fence either.
I'm more concerned about some clown coming up there with a sledgehammer and doing some damage to it, whatever. And anyway, I'm gonna call for a recorded vote on this. And I have a worry or an interest in Councillor Olson sitting on the committee. Is he eligible to have a vote on this?
Yes.
Yes,
my
he
understanding-
is, Mr. Mayor. As I've said to a few councillors, there is no such thing as conflict of interest. There is pecuniary interest, and the councillor has to excuse themselves for pecuniary interest when them or immediate members of their family will benefit financially from a decision. In a small town, it's really difficult to not have someone who's involved as a president of minor hockey or president of minor ball or dance not be here. So there is no conflict of interest as far as I'm concerned, Mr. Mayor, and there's no pecuniary interest.
Good. Councillor Dedlock?
We have a lot of vandalism in our play parks. Just a
Dr. Snell?
question.
Oh, I see. Sure. Okay.
No, seems to go in
Short
cycles.
answers.
I don't want to say
We have a
anything.
lot of agenda to still get through, so nice short answers, please. Okay, any further questions? Councillor Bowden?
I have is the group also going to the Elks asking for money?
That would be a question
Councillor
for
Olson?
either Councillor Olson.
Yep, we've talked to Elks. We've got, again, we're optimistic. As Director Snell had said, of course, you don't hear anything from any of these government stuff. We've gotten good feedback from them and requests of more information and even very specific information, which leads us to optimism, as well as community groups around that have said, we'll do something. Of what level, of course, one representative can't commit to anything, but yes, we have reached out to the Elks.
So the Elks are doing highway cleanup, and they are picking garbage on the highway for a number of kilometers. I'm just wondering whether or not there would be some opportunity for the spray park committee to also maybe pick garbage around the town along Palliser Trail, as far as showing some good faith in the extra money that they've come back and asked for. So with this, if this 35,000 goes forward, then that brings the total to 152,657. And I see in our budget, we've accounted for $7,500 a year for staff. So we're up to $160,000. So will the committee be interested?
Sandra, I'm going to
in,
correct you and I'm going to stop you right there.
I'm not finished. Please let me finish. That basically, there is a lot of money and there is some good faith. And I realize, I think it would be kind of nice to see some other effort in just handing out, that maybe some of the committees can actually start, maybe give back to the community as well.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna ask for a response from Mr. Rabb and then Councillor Olson.
All right, just for the ease of this, the committee has not come for any other funding outside of the original 100,000. The numbers that you're presenting, Sandra, are false. They're not factual. If we can.
No, they're not. We paid for the additional.
Yeah, I let you finish. Can you please let me finish?
So.
Can you please let me finish, Sandra?
Go ahead.
Thank you. So to make it clear, what we're asking here is to aid in the project to finish it up while we're waiting for response from grants. As far as other fundraising, there's a whole host of things that we're looking at right now to try to problem solve this as well. Everything's on the table, nothing's off the table. The ask is as presented by the mayor, and I would like a vote on that matter. Thank you.
So we have given extra 17, regardless if you ask for it or not. So
no, that's negative.
So just if I can clarify, Mr. Mayor, the additional 17 was requested by administration towards the project. That was not a recommendation from the committee or a request from the committee.
But it went
Administratively,
towards a project.
it went towards the project, but that was an administrative recommendation.
Yeah, so that was my point, basically, is money going towards the project.
I just want to acknowledge that these things all came to council and representatives, elected representatives, and we voted in favor of it. No matter what council it is, just stop. No matter what council it is, it's a decision made by elected officials. There's 7 of us. Doesn't matter, as long as it's a majority, it passes. So that's the end of the story. So I'm tired of hearing all this bickering about we've already spent this money. We're going to we have a motion on the table. We're going to vote on this as soon as Councillor Jensen gets back on, and it's going to be a recorded vote, and that'll be it. It's not about whether
How many more times are they coming back for more money?
Councillor Bowden, it's not whether they've borrowed or gotten all of this money. We're talking about $35,000 and $35,001 today. That's it. It's not about what they've received already.
It's about going towards a project. And
Exactly.
I'm asking how much more money is going to go towards it.
It depends on the council.
And that is what my people that voted for me are asking about.
And then that's fine. And that's what you can tell them.
And so that's why I'm asking. Thank you.
Councillor Olson.
I just want a quick comment too. We are, still chasing many options for this, and we're not interested in stopping looking for those options as well. We sat through this several times, and the emotions, of course, get going. But I do commit to working hard and trying to get as many grants as we can, just like any other project. So we'll continue to volunteer and spend some time on it as much as we can.
Mr. Mayor, while we're waiting for Councillor Jensen, my only other comment is, at the end of the day, this is a town-owned asset. Will be operated by the town and will be used by the town and its residents. Since the decision was made to move forward with it, sometimes, best laid plans have to be adjusted and best laid plans change. In a perfect world, we would have done it all and all in for the $400,000 and been done and been happy and moved in. But at the end of the day, sometimes things change as you move forward and you have to adjust. And as the mayor said, we've moved forward with the direction of council on all of these decisions, and we will move forward tonight based on the decision of council, whether it's positive towards the contribution or negative. But and as far as any other requests at this point in time, that's not expected, it's not anticipated, but in this world, you never want to guarantee that there wouldn't be, but it's certainly not expected or anticipated.
Councillor Jensen, I know you had to leave us for technical difficulties. Was there any questions you had? Oh, there we go. Did you hear, Councillor Jensen? Did you hear what I said? Clearly not. I know you had some technical difficulties. Oh, there she goes again. She's frozen.
I'm sorry. I'm just getting glitches. I can barely.
Yeah, I see that. Okay. Yeah. Okay, well, if there's no further questions, I'm going to call a question, and Councillor Campion has asked for a recorded vote. So as I call the question, please hold your hand up long enough till I say to put them down. All right, so all in favor? Okay, that's good. You can put your hands down. Opposed? Director Lund, you got that? Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for that. All right, let's move on to 9.05 Hannah Dance Association grant allocation request. I would entertain a motion that council reallocate Town of Hannah funding in the amount of $6,142 from the Hannah Dance Association Storage Project to the Hannah Dance Flooring Project to provide the association with funds to assist with the completion of a new dance floor in the Edie Mae Duff Studio, and adjust the 2021 Town of Hannah capital budget to provide the association with additional funding in the amount of $3,835.61 towards this project. Thank you, Councillor Deadlock.
So, Mr. Mayor, again, we discussed this at the council info session. The stage project, or the storage project, sorry, had $6,100 left unspent, and that was requested by the Dance Association. We have added $38,35.61 to the contribution, so that amount in total will, with the $9,500 that the Dance Association has, be able to purchase and complete the flooring in the Edie Mae Duff Dance Studio. So we've allocated the 60, or proposing to reallocate the 6,100 and add 3,835, so they have the dollars so they can complete the flooring project and in total.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bowden?
There's just a minor typo at the bottom of the page. You've got 38,36.61.
Okay.
So just a minor typo.
Okay,
And
thank
just
you.
a similar thing, you know, maybe in good faith, maybe they might be able to pick garbage on Palliser Trail. That's all. Thank you.
Any further questions? Comments? All right, seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. That takes us to 9.6, Alberta Pioneers Association financial assistance request. I would entertain a motion the council provide a financial contribution to the Alberta Pioneers Association of Hannah and District Senior Circle in the amount of $3,599.20 to recognize the financial hardship of operating their facility during COVID-19, with the funds coming from the 2021 Town of Hannah operating contingency. Thank you, Councillor Jensen. Mr. Neal.
So, Mr. Mayor, we talked about this at the council info session, but there was no clear, I guess, consensus or direction on the amount. As we know, the senior circle is in a solid financial position. They're unable to operate their hall, rent it out, still have the expenses of operating it. And they did lose approximately $12,000 in 2020. 2021 is not looking any better at this point in time. And there was some suggestion at the council info session in terms of an amount would be what the municipal tax portion for the facility would be. Currently, they are exempt and have been exempt before they moved into the building. So based on the assessment of the building, using the commercial rate and the assessment, it's $35,999.20 is the number we've put in. Certainly, if council wishes to amend that option, that certainly is an option to them, but that's where the $35,999 came from, was the municipal tax levy that would be appropriated to them if they were taxed.
Okay. Any questions? Councillor Bowden?
I just want to bring attention to, there is mention about the Roundhouse grant, and that amount last year was $1,060.89. So the balance then of $2,538 and change must have been from Masonic. And I believe the casino money has to be spent based on what, I think it may already be spoken for. Councillor Jensen, are you aware or not?
I think casino money, you have to have a bit of pot of money to continue with future casinos for hotels. And I know with the golf course,
yeah,
you have to have about $5,000 in that account, and it has to stay there.
Yeah,
you have to provide hotels for those people.
So I don't believe that money is available for them. I am wondering whether or not, since we're so good at giving money out, perhaps we could account for their utilities and their insurance. $7,800 and a few change.
Mr. Mayor, that would be if someone wanted to make that amendment, that's certainly an option. Like I said, we put 35.99.20 in and the rationale behind it. But if certainly there's an amendment to a different amount, that's an option.
So I want to be clear, this is a one-time, correct? They're not asking on an annual basis, correct?
I can't, again, it's one of those, I can't guarantee, Mr. Mayor, that they won't be back if 2021, but it is COVID related.
Right. So and they didn't really have a specific ask as far as monetary value. Yeah. I mean, I think this is, I mean, Councilor Bowden, you feel free if you want to amend the motion, but this kind of falls in line with what we've done for other organizations. So I don't know if you want to amend it. That's totally up to you.
Well, I'd like to hear from somebody else, see what their opinion is, or whether they agree or not. So,
Councilor Campion.
Yeah, I agree with you, Sandra. Councilor Bodine, I agree with you 100%, but
it's gonna be a first.
Yeah, maybe we should amend it and give them 68,000.
Yeah, no kidding.
And even if they come back next year, won't matter. I mean, we've done that for other outfits.
So are you done playing with your child play, you two? Because I'm sick of hearing this.
Well, I guess we are too, so.
Yeah, well, you know what? There is 5 of us that are elected officials that voted in favor of something. The 2 of you do not hijack a meeting. So that's enough of that. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried.
I agree with you, Mr. Mayor.
Let's move on. 9.7. Helmer Dam Fish Habitat Sustainability Study. I would entertain a motion that council accepts the Helmer Dam Fish Habitat Sustainability Study Final Phase 1 report completed by Triton Environmental Consultations dated March 9th, 2021 for information. Thank you, Councillor Olson.
So, Mr. Mayor, as you can see, what we've determined and what the recommendations are, and we've certainly approached the consultant for a little more definition on the recommendations. They're basically suggesting that aeration may be an option. They're also suggesting that they would need to know the sources of where the nutrients are coming from. That's one of the challenges in the water, is the nutrient level is high, pH level is high, and the temperature that the water gets in the summer is not ideal. And they had wanted to do more studies, another round of studies to be able to figure some of those things out. As you can tell, we were not successful with our last grant application. So really where we're at right now, Mr. Mayor, is Director Snell, Tammy McMillan, who's been working with her on this project, Mark Nakota, Garth Carl. We're going to get that group together. Levi Neufeld, going to get that group together and see what options there are moving forward. One of the options we'd like to explore is whether the Henry Kruger has the ability to pump raw water to Helmer, which would be of better quality than the waters there, would help dilute the pH, would help dilute some of the nutrients. So we need to do some investigation around that, whether that's an option and what that cost would be. As you can tell, we had no runoff this year at all. So people will be commenting that Fox Lake is lower. They'll comment Helmer Dam is lower. The only ability to put water in there is through runoff in that regard. But so we are entering into some discussions. Garth was away on vacation last week when we kind of approached him about the possibility, and he said they needed to do a little bit of more work on it, and even said, as a commission, if that's going to be our backup water reservoir, we might need to spend a little more time and effort on treating the water and getting it in a better, more acceptable state in case they needed to use it. So we don't have the answers right now in terms of the next steps, but we just wanted council to know the report's done, the report's public. and can be shared with anyone. And we will be working, that group will be working. We talked about potentially reaching out to the Rod and Gun Club in terms of some options there. But we feel the information that was provided through the report is satisfactory and gives us a good handle on the water quality and some of the issues that have been affecting the ability to sustain fish in that water. So don't have the answers right now, Mr. Mayor, but we'll be working hard to get those answers here shortly and be bringing something back in terms of how we move forward next steps.
Great.
And we're prepared to answer any questions council may have.
Any questions? All right, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that is carried. That takes us to COVID-19 updates. Mr. Neal?
Mr. Mayor, not really a whole lot to add or change from where we've been. The two things that have happened with the latest restrictions to the municipality, not to the businesses, but to the municipality, has been at Centennial Place. So we've had to, you know, of all things, we've had to restrict people from using the walking track, and we've had to restrict people from using the fitness center unless they have a trainer. I don't understand those in our facility, in our situation, but those are the rules. That's really the only things that have impacted us lately. Community center, Heartland used it, worked well, good revenue generator for us. But at the end of the day, we're hoping, as we've talked about earlier, that we're going to be able to move forward in a similar manner as we did in 2020 with the outdoor pool, with our summer programs. I think it's going to happen. We may not, as Gwen said, we may not be able to start May 21st, but I'm hoping we're going to be able to start quickly around that time and run a fairly similar program to what we did there. As you're aware, the rummage sale decided to cancel their spring rummage sale, so that won't be happening. They're eagerly looking forward to a fall one. And the only other thing, so the bookings we have for the Hannah Farmers Market will start in a couple of weeks. They have their Mother's Day market, and then they will start their weekly markets beginning June 2nd. Other than that, we don't have a lot of bookings in our community center because people just know COVID. They're not making plans. Last year, they already had their weddings booked and different events booked and had to keep postponing them and moving them on. So we haven't had a lot of requests for booking at this point in time. So like I said, not a ton of changes. Waiting to hear where minor ball is going to be, where minor soccer is going to be, and how they propose to move forward. Hopefully they'll be able to put a program together and do it and follow the regulations and be able to have something for the youth. But that will be the decision of the associations, how they choose to move forward. We'll make sure the facilities are ready and able for them to move forward however they choose to move forward. So not a whole lot with COVID. Mr. Mayor, I agree with you. Premier Kenny was optimistic. Hoping his optimism is sought out well, and that by middle of June, end of June, we can be back closer to normal and be able to live our lives close to the way we want to live our lives. So if there's any questions on COVID, like I said, there hasn't been a ton of changes lately, but that's kind of the updates to us.
Well, I know with the getting out of this, I guess, plan from our premier is obviously vaccines. Does the town get numbers as far as vaccinated, or maybe Councillor Bowden can answer the question through the medical clinic? How many vaccinations have been completed in the region? I guess I don't know because I think the drugs.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure they would know because they're not administering them so much as the pharmacies are. But I can check with them and find out.
Yeah, Mr.
I just wonder if that reporting would come back. I don't know.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I don't know. I haven't seen anything anywhere in terms of the breakdown on vaccinations per even health zones.
Right.
You know, I haven't seen that. I know that we're pushing almost 1 million doses,
First,
just under 1 million as of yesterday. But I don't know, I've never seen any breakdown in terms of how many in Central Zone, how many in Calgary Zone, how many in North Zone. Be interesting to find out.
Yeah, Councillor Bowden?
Well, and I think there's people that are going out of their area to get vaccinations. Some are going to Medicine Hat, some are going to Drum, Red Deer, or whatever. So whether or not it'd be a true picture of our area, I don't, yeah.
Yeah, no,
I
that's
think
fine.
at the
You know, because I know Premier Kenny just mentioned, you know, 70%. Once you get 70%, you can really start kind of getting to our stage 1 or whatever it is. So anyway,
I think that that's a very good question, Mr. Mayor. And I know that even as Councillor Bowden said, if they've got their shots in Medicine Hat or Brooks or wherever, they should be reported in terms of where their address is, and you know, they should be able to tell us what percentage of numbers people have. And maybe they have that information, they just haven't shared it.
maybe. Okay, that's fine. Yes, Councillor Campion.
I had mine last week there on the 7th, and I know at PharmaSave there, of the 10, 12 people that I seen there, there was only 3 locals that I knew of. So
Oh, wow.
even even that number could be deceiving that way.
Right. Councillor Deadlock?
I had mine in Statler, so we're kind of all over the place.
Right. Okay, well, that's good. We'll just keep our fingers crossed that everybody gets vaccinated and we can get back to whatever normal is. All right, any further comments, questions on COVID-19? No, good. I'd entertain a motion the council accepts the Town of Hannah COVID-19 operating plan update dated April 13th, 2021 for information. Thank you, Councillor Campion. All in favor? And that is carried. All right, this takes us to an interesting, another first, I guess, council code of conduct matter. All right, I would entertain a motion. Well, let's maybe just speak about this a little bit. Kim, I'll just turn it over to you.
Okay, yeah, Mr. Mayor, as council's aware, we added this to the open session today. Councillor Olson wanted it to be presented and discussed in open session, which I applaud. But basically, as council's aware, we do have a code of conduct bylaw 994/2018. This council passed. Basically, you know, talks about when representing the municipality, they should act honestly, good faith, perform their functions and duties in a conscientious and diligent manner with integrity, conduct themselves in a professional manner with dignity. You know, how they should act with other members, staff, always, you know, treating each other with respect, whether that's staff, whether that's council members, whether that's members of the public, committee. At the end of the day, we also know that our bylaw does have a complaint process. So it has an informal complaint process. It has a formal complaint process, and council does have the opportunity to basically comply and enforce if they feel that there's been a valid complaint that you know, goes against the spirit and intent of the bylaw. As council is aware, in the background, there was a complaint placed on Councillor Olson from Mrs. Terry Johnson. I'm not going to read the email sent. I think that council's all seen it. The end of the day, from administration's perspective, the complainant did not provide any evidence of bullying or that Councillor Olson acted in bad faith other than their subjective opinion stated in their email. So as a result, we are recommending that, as per the request in the complaint, all members of council review the code of conduct bylaw again, and we further recommend that this matter be closed at this time. This does serve as a reminder to council of the contents of the code of conduct bylaw and the expectations placed on council to behave in an ethical manner. So I think, Mr. Mayor, that's all that I have to say from administration's point of view. As you can tell, we would like to basically respond to the complainant that the code of conduct has been presented and reviewed to council, and that we further consider this matter closed. And with that, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Yeah, I'll just kind of add to that, just in reading our code of conduct bylaw, it does say the investigator, which is council as a whole. So we are the investigators. It also does say, you know, that the complaint must be set out in a reasonable and probable grounds and include a detailed description of the facts, which I've seen the email, and it doesn't include that. So I don't know how we can act on something that you know doesn't have any factual evidence. So I would like to ask Councillor Olson if he had any comments.
Yeah, I mean, I feel I should comment since it's about me. I don't take Facebook too serious. I'm guessing that's where it came from. It's really my only social media online presence. I'm not sure what events she's talking about. The person who wrote the email, I have not had a conversation online in any way or in person since she taught me in junior high. So I really can't comment on this repeated incident that's happening. Yeah, so I guess proper course is, you know, she's going to go through a counselor for the complaint, but I don't really have much comment on it.
And I'll just open it up to council. Is there any questions? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, my only comment, I guess, would be just having talked to Mrs. Johnson. I do believe, you know, in terms of where she believes that there was some inappropriate responses on social media was in regards to some social media posts and some social media issues that Mr. Corey Ashley has been involved with. And I think that it's unfortunate that we had a technical glitch and he didn't have an opportunity to speak to council today. But I do believe at the end of the day, that was his intention, was to speak to some bylaw issues and the bullying bylaw. I don't know if he was going to speak to Mr. Olson or Councillor Olson in perspective or in general, but I think anything that this email is alluding to, based on my conversation with Mrs. Johnson, would be something to do with a social media interaction with Mr. Ashley and or Mr. Ashley's family. And I think we all know a number of months ago, there was many responses and many interactions to some of those social media posts.
Councillor Bowden, I know you're unmuted.
I just personally am trying to stay off and out of some of the conversations, just because the intent may not be there, but just the interpretation on the other end. And I think there was a while back where I was maybe reminded about the comments on there. So it could happen to any one of us. And it's so hard depending on what situation they're in at the time that they're reading it and such. So yeah, I feel for the fellow Corey and his family and such. And yeah, but it is so difficult with, I'm trying to stay off because I thought it may have had something to do with what I may have said or done or whatever. So
So, Mr. Mayor, again, I think this serves as a reminder, and I know it's very difficult, and it's even, you know, you don't run as an elected official to not have a personal life, not have a personal opinion, but it's really tough for people to separate the two. And I always comment to council, if you are taking a position or stating something, you know, to let people know that this is your personal opinion. And I know in Councillor Olson's situation, none of you have a Facebook page that is a Councillor Kyle Olson Facebook page. It is Kyle Olson, the individual, but it's so hard to separate. And I feel for you, but that's the nature of the game when you got in. And I just think this is a good reminder to, be careful what we say. Maybe take a second thought and just make sure that we're comfortable with what we're putting out there. And with that, I think we can move on with the vote, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, yeah, it's, they call it public service for a reason, I guess. So we don't have the motion yet, do we?
Oh, sorry, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, you should have it in the revised.
Yeah, no, I have it. We just haven't put it on the floor
Right.
yet. Just
Yeah.
let me run the meeting and you just sit and relax, okay? Thank you. I would entertain a motion that council authorize the chief administrative officer to respond to the complaint that council has received or reviewed the council code of conduct bylaw at their April 13th, 2021 council meeting and consider the matter closed. Thank you, Councillor Stickle. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. All right, that takes us to council round table and reports. I'm going to start with Councillor Campion, followed by Councillor Olson. Councillor Campion.
Yeah, nothing further to add to my report.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions for Councillor Campion? Okay, thank you. That takes us to Councillor Olson, followed by Councillor Deadlock. Councillor Olson.
I mimic Councillor Campion's response. I have nothing else to add.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Councillor Olson? Okay, again, thanks. Councillor Deadlock, followed by Councillor Stickle. Councillor Deadlock, the floor is yours.
This will be quick. I'm done with my report too.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there any questions for Councillor Deadlock? All right, seeing none, thanks again. Councillor Stickle, followed by Councillor Bowden.
Yeah, the door at Palliser's been locked. We have one of the staff members that's been in contact with COVID, so they're all being tested. We haven't heard any results on the test yet, so hoping everything's negative. But other than that, that's about it. Things are good at the lodge.
Thank you. I'll go Councillor Bowden first. You had a question, Councillor?
Sorry, that was all I wanted to ask is about
Okay.
the lodge, whether they're open again or locked up. So
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, CA O'Neill.
Just a question, Councillor Stickle. I forgot to ask you. So has the staff at Acadia had the opportunity yet to get their vaccine?
No, it should
No?
be in the next couple of days from what
Okay.
that's what we're telling us. So
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Bowden, followed by Councillor Jensen.
I have nothing else to submit.
Okay, any questions? Thank you. Any questions for Councillor Bowden? Okay, thank you for that. And that takes us to Councillor Jensen. The floor is yours.
I also have nothing further to add.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Councillor Jensen? All right, thank you for that. And I really, it was a quiet month, so I really don't have anything to add to mine as well. So yeah, it was a relatively quiet month. So although I am getting lots of phone requests with a lot of the work that Cactus is doing with some of the projects. So which, yeah, it's good. It's good to see the work's being done. Yes, Councillor Bowden?
You mentioned in your report that you would like to have a discussion regarding.
Well, I think we kind of had, I think Kim covered it in his report. So yeah, I was going to bring that up, but I think we covered that. I mean, we'll help the restaurants and whoever, we'll try to help them as best we can, I think is what we're saying, as long as they have the, the insurance and that. But no, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further questions for me? All right, that's the way I like it. With that, I'll entertain a motion that council accepts council reports for information. Thank you, Councillor Bowden. All in favor? And that is carried. I'll just blow through these correspondence items, and then when I'm done, if you have any comments on any of them, we'll come back to it. 12.1, Minister of Municipal Affairs Disaster Recovery Program changes. 12.02, Minister of Jobs, Economic and Innovation COVID-19 response letter. 12.03, Minister of Municipal Affairs, Alberta Community Partnership Program approval. 12.04 AUMA Spring Municipal Leaders Caucus Agenda. Starts tomorrow, I believe. Yeah, 12.05 AUMA Town South February, March update. 12.06 Cactus Corridor Newsletter, March 2021. 12.07 ATCO 2020 Community Report to the Town of Hannah. 12.08 Prairieland Pride Newsletter, Volume 6, Issue 3 for February 2021. 12.09 Prairieland School Division Board Highlights, February 23rd, 2021. And 12.10 Prairieland School Division Board Highlights, March 23rd, 2021. Is there anything anybody want to make comments on? Or Kim, did you want to highlight anything? Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, thanks. I think the newsletter from Cactus Corridor was very, very well done and very important. I know that they're undertaking a lot of projects and doing some work. And I think the fact that they are able to put out a brief highlight of what they're doing, hope, if anybody wants any copies of it, and want to hand out, or they're talking to people, I think it's a good piece of information to share and get out, so people are aware that some things are happening, they're moving, they're maybe not moving as fast as people want, but they're moving. And I thought that was a good piece of information they put together, and hopefully it gets a lot of press.
Agreed. Well done. Any further comments regarding any of the correspondence? All right, then I'll entertain a motion that council accepts correspondence items 12.01 to 12.10 for information. Thank you, Councillor Jensen. All in favor? And that is carried. And just before we get too far, Director Lund, is it 9:30 or 9 that we have? Because I know if we go any longer, we have to ask for an extension, correct? I can't remember if it's 9 or 9:30.
I will check into that and make sure that I have the right number for you.
Should probably do that, because I think we'll probably go over 9 minutes.
We may.
Yeah, we had that question. We were thinking about that before, and we didn't. We knew it would be a long meeting, and we wondered what that time was, and we just didn't get a chance to look it up. So
I think it's 3 hours, isn't it, Chris? And then
that's what I thought, Councillor Campy.
And then we ask for the other half hour, I believe.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
I just need to look as well while Rhonda's doing her thing. I think that the meeting was probably set for 9:30, but I'm just going to double check in the Zoom credentials.
Okay.
Oh, I see. Right. There's that too.
We'll be done by 9:30, definitely.
So just a little Jeopardy music, and if anybody wants to see.
Well, I was just wondering if anybody's had a chance to look at the new curriculum for the, I know there's been a lot of discussion about the K to 6 new curriculum on Facebook and such. So been kind of keeping tabs on it and such. Seems like there's a lot of negativity towards it. And I think I can relate just sort of on some of the scans that there's been a lot of negative comments on it. So.
The K to 6 curriculum is way over my head, so I'm not qualified.
K to 3 would be over mine. So
yeah. Well, the stuff with kids, I remember when my kids were in school and they bring stuff home, and I'm okay. Different way of learning now, I tell you that.
Or talk to a grade 12.
Yeah.
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 On another note, while we're waiting, looks like Rhonda's got it.
The bylaw requires that meetings not exceed 4 hours.
Oh, 4 hours. Okay. All right.
Let's not unless there is a unanimous vote to continue.
Right. Well, let's not push that envelope.
No,
All
Mr. Mayor, yeah, we did make that change, I think, in our last procedural bylaw, getting rid of the 3.5 and made it to 4. So.
Okay. I'm never going to remember that, so if we get close to 9 again, I'll be asked. So, all right. Excellent. So with that, I would entertain a motion that we go to closed session at 8:54. Thank you, Councilor.